behind the plate with this. And then the conferences and everything. I mean, I know that that's kind of a problem in sports now, right? Reviews and long discussions and just games that last forever. But, yeah, the strike zone in Omaha was brutal. And it reminds me some of college basketball officiating. To me, it's kind of the same thing, which is there's a lot of money in college sports. Maybe pay more of it to people doing that so we have higher quality officiating.
Maybe so.
I would like to see that. Send a little bit more money that way.
I would like to see that too, because I about had an aneurysm watching these games throughout the throughout the College World Series in Omaha. So, I mean, a disappointing ending for Vanderbilt here, and I think you feel especially for guys like Jack Leiter and Kamar Rocker. I mean, Rocker's got a national championship, and we said this yesterday. Look, it's not the way he wanted to end, and he certainly did not have his best stuff in that game. But, I mean, his legacy, it's intact. I said this yesterday when he came off the mound. I mean, this is one of the greatest athletes that we've ever seen at Vanderbilt. And yesterday, in my mind, doesn't really change that. You're coming in on 4 days rest. You gave it your best shot, and it wasn't good enough yesterday. Sometimes that happens. I feel bad for members of this team that I feel like deserve to win a national title, especially when you factor in last year, the lineup they had, plus the pitching staff. They're probably going to win a national championship last year, so I do feel bad on that front. I think one thing to keep in mind here with this team is the lineup they have is pretty young, and I think this team is going to continue to get better as they move forward here. Obviously, you don't have Rocker or Leiter, and that's a pretty big hole as you move forward. But guys like Christian Little and Riley out there as well, those guys are only going to get better as they move forward here. So I say all that to say, probably not the last time we're going to see Vanderbilt in the College World Series in Omaha.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't count on ever, really, or having a Rocker Leiter situation. And that's where I don't think Tim Corbin will indulge in this because this is not how he's wired. But you could easily, as a Vanderbilt fan, sit there and say, like, as of going into the 1920 season, you got the next 2 years with those two guys. And, again, like last year, her team had a lot more veterans in the lineup, things like that. And you were looking at, maybe a three-peat, and instead you get none of it. And, yeah, it's too bad for Leiter because obviously he came in and gave you everything.
Oh, yeah.
On Monday. He set you up to win it all, and he'll leave without one. But that's how it goes. And this roster, or this lineup in particular, like you said, there are some guys like Enrique Bradfield. We're going to be talking about him next couple of years. There's some other guys in here like C.J. Rodriguez is a really good young player too. And then they've got the number 1 recruiting class coming in, by the way.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, they will be back, but it'll look different. I mean, you're not going to have – well, I shouldn't say never, but it's very hard to count on having two guys like that ever in your rotation, It's
a pretty high bar.
Yeah, it's the way things worked out. And with both of them, look, most pitchers who are in their shoes are going to probably go. I mean, those guys are sons of professional athletes, so that gives you you would think it gives you a little bit more. Yeah, you don't need to rush off to make money in the pros. By the way, though, as we have this new world order starting today,
now you can start making money in college.
Exactly. I mean, could Kamar Rocker have made a few bucks the last couple of years in Nashville? I would say he could have. So maybe the next run says, "Hey, I'll hang around
Get
college."
The commercial, him just hurling chicken sandwiches from the mound.
Hey, I'm
throwing burritos around.
I'm telling
Any endorsements you want
right now.
I don't know why it's always throwing food. Food just comes to mind for me immediately.
Those two guys together could have come in here and done a Light Rock commercial.
Oh yeah,
Light Rock.
Yeah,
see,
it's pretty good. Look at you.
The T-shirts. You play a little bit of Doobie Brothers in the background, some Steely Dan. I mean, come on, man. The possibilities are endless.
Maybe you should be an agent.
I'm actually thinking about it. I got some ideas.
Got some thoughts. Speaking of thoughts, we'll take your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, reacting to a rough loss for Vanderbilt last night in the national title game against Mississippi State. We'll get more into that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Mississippi State gets it done last night. They win 9-0 in a dominant performance against Vanderbilt to win their first national title in a team sport in school history. So lots of energy last night in Omaha. Much of Mississippi State fans were there. I'm sure a fun time in Starkville as well. Two things. Number one, Parker Nola was safe on that last play.
I was just going to say, the rally was started on that play, and we'll never know.
Exactly.
We'll never know how it turns out.
Which goes back to umpiring. You're staring right at it.
Yeah.
He was safe.
No, yeah, I thought he was safe too.
I did see somebody on Twitter say, kudos to Tim Corbin for not challenging the play and letting Mississippi State celebrate. Tim Corbin's a better man than me. I would have challenged the play.
Yeah, that's an interesting
Be
spot.
like, screw your celebration. He was safe. I'm challenging it right now.
Yeah. That's probably, I would agree, kudos, and I'm probably with you on that too. It's like, you know what? You guys can all wait. You can all sit there and, hey, Dak,
you can celebrate
down.
again. Yeah.
You're fine, Dak. Come on. We're going to, crazier things have happened. Not many, but crazier things have happened than a 9-run rally in the 9th inning.
With 2 outs.
Yeah. So all you need is one base runner. But, yeah, you're right. That was a very fitting umpiring
just a great way to close out a
to
wonderful tournament from the officials, yes.
Yeah.
So after Kentucky won the national title in basketball, when was that, 2012? Something like that?
Right, with Anthony Davis.
I enjoyed myself that night by listening to the Lexington police scanner. And you heard all manner of things going on out there in Lexington. I mean, it was unbelievable. I did not stay up last night and tune in to the Starkville police scanner. But I can imagine the environment in Starkville. Well, quite frankly, and in Omaha as well.
I'm sure was there like 4 people left in Starkville?
I was about to say, was anybody left in Starkville last night to have a party? I'm sure the Mississippi State fans were enjoying this. There were some interesting people in the crowd last night. Alex Doherty, A to Z Sports, was there, and he was tweeting out there was a guy in front of him that had a puppet. It was a Mississippi State life-size puppet that he had on his left arm. Interesting stuff going on in Omaha last night.
Yeah.
Can't bring any cowbells in, but you can bring a life-size puppet in, apparently, to the College World Series.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would actually love to see what Starkville looked like last night because, I mean, it may have been just pillage all you want because no one's home. They're all in Omaha. But hopefully they enjoyed themselves and didn't yell racist things at people. And
that would be a good start.
Yeah. Had a good time.
Hopefully they can avoid doing that for the future. That'd be great.
That would be good.
If we could not do that anymore in our society, it would be awesome. So, Joe, as you look at this run for Vanderbilt, obviously a disappointing end, and the expectations with this program have gotten to the point where they're expected to be in Omaha. They're expected to compete for a national title, and we talk about them being, at the moment, the gold standard in college baseball. Now that it's over and they've fallen 1 game short here of winning the national title, how do you view this season for Vanderbilt? What kind of is your takeaway from this team and what their legacy is going to be here with this Vanderbilt baseball program?
I do think as time goes on, I mean, it's just inevitable that you'll think to 2020. Understanding, always keeping in context, one, there are a lot of others, like Dayton basketball, for example, right? Like there's a lot of teams that had the potential to have some kind of a special outcome that didn't. And also there's way worse outcomes than sports that happened in that year. So you always have to keep in perspective. But when you're just talking about Vanderbilt baseball and the sort of dynasty or dynasty-ish thing going on right now, I mean, there'd be no question. The D word would be with a capital D. Had they even really, to me, won last night. Had they won last night again, they would have been the 3rd program ever to have back-to-back titles that were also within range of a 3rd within 7 years. So I went back the other day and looked at that in anticipation of them winning because I didn't think there would be too many examples. It was USC in the 70s and LSU in the 90s. That's it. So they missed on that, obviously, and they certainly would have had – they were more built for it a year ago. But this team, I tell you – Tim Corbin, as much as that guy hates losing, and it took a while to get to his presser. His presser last night was like an all-time press conference. It really was. Like, it was epic. And I know that's a big word for a Zoom press conference.
It is.
Okay? But for anybody who, in fact, if you go back on Twitter with some Nashville media, like Corey Curtis is just like gushing about it. I mean, it was a hell of a presser, man. And for one, not just like, hey, congrats to Mississippi State. Like, he went deep on, like, his respect for them and, like, what was great about them. But then, he's asked about Kumar Rocker, and it took him a while to be able to answer. But he was asked that question, too. This team, how you remember it. And, I mean, the one term he used, I'm at peace with this team. That they went through a lot, including COVID stuff of their own, injury stuff of their own. Carter Young's another thing he talked about.
Yep.
Like, basically, the guy's been – and I'm not surprised. You look at his performance before the shoulder, and basically he said was asked by Chris Lee about treatment, and he said yes, he's going to have treatment. I guess I took that as he probably needs to have surgery.
Yeah.
So you think about that. The shoulder pops out, and you're out there gutting it out in pain and not performing. Not performing in the field, not performing at the plate. Well, there's probably a little correlation there, right? For a guy who was batting like 360 and one of the best defensive shortstops.
It was a vacuum out there at shortstop.
Before that happens, right? So, I mean, there's a lot to it. And Corbin also brought up, hey, other teams have this stuff too. You got to keep that in mind. But I still think it's going to be remembered as a great season from maybe not a great team, a team that wasn't perfectly constructed for this because, again, we've talked about the youth, a lot of young guys they were leaning on. You know, not many seniors. There were, 3 seniors on this team? One of them, Jason Gonzalez, was in the lineup. I mean, Cooper Davis fell out of the lineup. He was a leader, and then Hugh Fisher in a situational lefty in the bullpen. Yep. But, there's some other guys who are going to leave. But very young, flawed, but led by those 2 guys. Again, it's just that's where the regret is like, man, when you have that opportunity with those 2 guys, you got to take advantage of it. Again, I mean, they got to the last game. It's just when you get outscored 22-2 in the last 2 games, it feels different.
It was amazing, and look, I don't know if I necessarily agree with this statement, but I saw on Twitter last night from a Vandy fan that I've talked to a bunch, said that this is one of the worst Vandy teams, overall teams, that he's watched, and they've ended up in the national title game. I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, I think
that's a spoiled fan.
I think from a lineup perspective, they've had a lot of teams with better lineups, that's for sure.
They have, but like if you go by the season numbers, sure. It was actually like I think pleasantly, surprisingly good for a lot of the year. I mean, you had guys like Dom Keegan had a big year, and then a lot of these guys I think some of it is just individual slumps. This happens in baseball. Sometimes, 7 guys are slumping at the same time. Sometimes, 5 guys are red hot at the same time. But I think it probably had to do some just with the situation, the pressure, fatigue, whatever it is. Guys like Isaiah Thomas had a heck of a year and then struggled. Keegan, obviously we talked about Carter Young. I mean, he was a key part of that lineup all year, and then really struggles there. And Vaz was a revelation, and last night, by the way, another thing about this that won't get talked about enough because it's the most underrated and least discussed part of baseball is defense. I mean, Vaz and Bradfield actually put balls in play that I think in a lot of cases put them on base. In Mississippi State, not only did they make all the normal plays, they made some big-time plays. They were as good defensively as Vanderbilt was bad defensively. You can look at the outcome of last night's games and point to just flip-flop the defense. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, the idea that this is like some bad Vanderbilt team, no. It's not a bad Vanderbilt team, but certainly you think back to the team that won it 2 years ago, pretty big difference offensively.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any question about that. And even, again, what I think will pain Vanderbilt fans is thinking about what 2020 could have been with combination of a little bit more offense and the pitching staff you would have had as well. So I think that probably stings a little bit more today for Vanderbilt. We'll continue the conversation on Vanderbilt when we come back, taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I do have some breaking news to pass along as well on the other side. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning. We haven't even said hi to Elijah yet. Elijah, you okay back there? How's everything going?
Well, after restarting every computer I think we have back here to try to get this stream going, that thing has kicked my butt. I'm not going to lie. But it's good. You can see your pretty faces on Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch.
That's right.
From far away.
From far away, yeah. I made sure not to get it too close.
It's like a Monet, man.
Joe's really scared of the close-up.
Yeah, Joe's not a fan of the close-up. He's very very particular about his angles. So I had to get my Stanley Kubrick on during the break.
That's right.
Make sure that it's all framed properly. But now that I'm nice and sweaty, we're good to go. We're good.
Yeah, high angles. Do you guys get the Monet reference?
I did not. That went way over my head.
No.
Movie Clueless. Never seen the movie Clueless?
No, I have not.
You've never seen the movie Clueless?
I've never seen Clueless, no.
How many movies have you seen?
Well, I've seen a lot of movies. I'm old. But I would recommend the movie Clueless.
Okay. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Put that one on my list with whatever Russell
I don't
Crowe
feel
movie
like
you
not
suggested to me
seeing
yesterday.
Clueless is a big crime. Like, poor seeing some criminal. I mean, there's some criminal things.
Like if you haven't seen The Godfather or Goodfellas or something, then that's a much. But I would recommend it. It's good. And actually, what's his name? You'll realize he's a vampire. Ant-Man.
Oh, Paul Rudd?
Yeah, Paul Rudd.
Oh, he's the man.
Looks exactly the same then as now. Like,
yeah, it's a little creepy.
That guy's never aged, not one bit. He still looks fantastic.
Yeah, also, like Tom Brady.
Also, Alicia Silverstone is in Clueless.
There you go.
Nice.
1996.
Sold.
It's a good movie.
But
anyway, the Monet is she would call some of her classmates. It looks fine from far away, but then you don't want to get too close to it. That's the whole point.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
I see the parallel here now.
I think Joe looks good close up too, but that's okay. It's all good.
Let's high angle, far away.
I mentioned I had some
low lighting.
Some breaking news before the break last time around. Titans fans probably need to brace themselves for this one. Sam Sloman being signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Titans legend Sam Sloman, kicker that sent them in the playoffs last year, winning the division, signed by the expected to be signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
He's going to doink them out of Pittsburgh in December and knock them out of the playoffs.
That's right.
Titans are going to Pittsburgh.
Well, I asked the question a couple of weeks ago when we were trying to figure out this kicking situation for the Titans. How is Sam Sloman, the guy that just put you in the playoffs, how is he still out there? And Pittsburgh heard me, apparently, because now they're bringing him in.
Interesting. I'd love to know all the information that the Titans have on various kickers. Obviously, it's way more than we know. It's way more than we have. We see a little glimpse in practice, and we see what happens on Sundays. But it's just interesting. Like Tucker McCann, there's got to be a certain level of belief there.
Oh, yeah.
And these other guys kind of come and go, win a division for you, see you later.
See you later, buddy.
Et cetera.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, good for you, Sam
Thanks
Sloman.
for the AFC South. Have fun in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's just going to go going around the AFC, win a division here, win a division there.
Hey, you know what? Good for him. That's the way to go as a kicker. Don't stay long enough to become the villain, because all it's going to take is a couple really bad missed kicks, and you're going to get booed out of a stadium. Our only memory of this man is doinking our way into the playoffs in the AFC South title.
That is true.
Yeah, he's a hero here forever.
He'll be a hero here forever. No one can ever have anything bad to say about Sam Sloman.
That's right.
So
good for him. Wish Sam Sloman best of luck in Pittsburgh.
It's the right idea.
It's a big day in sports. Bobby Bonilla Day again today. It's a big day, July 1st.
What's the number?
It's 1.1 million today. 1.193 million today, as he will get each July 1st through 2035.
That's just
still a long way to go for Bobby Bonilla from the Mets today. Fantastic. Every July 1st, just $1 million coming your way. It's great.
I love that.
I used to call this Shea Weber Day because with the contract he signed on the offer sheet from the Flyers, there was a time where he was every July 1st he was getting like $13 million, like $13 million in signing bonuses for Shea Weber every July 1st. I was like, wow. I bet Shea Weber really used to like July 1st.
That's like 13 Bobby Bonilla days in one.
Oh yeah,
man, that's amazing. Yeah, I love those offer sheets.
July 1st, a pretty good day for some people. Others, not so much. But
lot of college athletes.
Yeah, a lot of college athletes
like this July 1st.
Absolutely, we'll get to that coming up more a little bit in a few minutes. By the way, before we get back into Vanderbilt, on that front, Can I just say, I mean, we've already seen some college athletes start today to come out with some of their endorsements, and we're going to have David Ubben on from The Athletic to talk about how that's going with Tennessee as well. But we've already had, I mean, it took 6 hours, and we've already had the greatest one ever, and that is Milo Sweet Tea sponsoring Bo Nix, the Auburn quarterback. Just getting Sweet Tea into the SEC immediately. They know exactly what they're doing down there with Milo's. Oh, yeah.
Just stunned, but I've never made that connection.
Outstanding. Is that good Sweet Tea? I hate
It's
Sweet
pretty
Tea.
good.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, hate Sweet Tea's awful, man. We've talked about this. Sweet Tea and banana pudding. I love everything else about Southern food. God. Everything else. Love it. I'll eat a pound of collard greens right now. I'll eat everything, drink it all. I like tea, unsweetened tea, but sweet tea is like I feel like I'm just drinking sugar water, right? Am I crazy here?
Yeah,
you are. It's the most Yankee thing that's ever come out of Joe Rexrode's
It's
mouth.
really difficult to trust many of his sports takes now when you have that bad of an opinion about sweet tea.
I mean,
you have that opinion. Vingan has that opinion. Martell has that opinion. What are y'all doing?
I think you know somebody.
What sort of life do you live?
I'm sorry. Like I don't mind Arnold Palmer's. That's tea with a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah.
You know, a little lemonade with the tea. I just think sweet tea, every time I've tasted it, I'm like, oh, my God. Why don't you just pour, like a bag of sugar in my mouth?
That's like the whole point, is that if you pour a whole bag of sugar in your mouth, you're going to get some looks because that's weird.
Well, I'd rather use that sugar on like a huge slice of key lime pie. There's a Southern dessert I love.
You can have
a lot
both.
of sugar. Yeah, but I mean, if I would like, I'd have like a.
You don't have to do it every day.
Some people do, though.
Oh, I know.
Too much.
I know. There's a lot of
so anyway, Milo's is good?
Milo's is good.
Okay.
It's
Milo's is good sweet tea.
Congratulations to Bo Nix from Auburn.
Go Bo.
By the way, Vincent on the text line from Dixon saying, driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com, far better looking, far away. The farther away they get, the better looking they get. I guess talking about you and me. Thank you.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Appreciate that, Vincent.
I was looking at the Zoom feed, and I was like, whew, man. Hide behind the mic.
So, Joe, we've spent a lot of time over the last month and a half, really, since postseason baseball has gotten underway, discussing college baseball and how big this has been for college baseball in this state, with Tennessee being good, them advancing to the College World Series, Vanderbilt back where they belong in the College World Series once again. And now that it's over and Vanderbilt has come up one game short, a disappointing showing for Tennessee in the College World Series as well. What's the aftermath of this, do you think? What is the staying power in terms of college baseball and its popularity based on what we just saw and the run that we just went through, where I think this state and college baseball, more people were bought in by far than we've ever seen before?
Well, yeah, a couple of things come to mind there. One is, first of all, like the ratings for the first game were really bad. I mean, it was a very low number. Now, obviously, this event is not used to going against Stanley Cup Final and NBA Conference Finals. So you got to keep that in mind. Also, ESPN 2 versus here we go. So I was wondering about this. John Oran from Sports Business Journal is a guy you can always count on for the daily ratings. So the first game, which was on the Deuce, did like a very bad number. I'm trying to find it now, but it was like 400,000. You know, I mean, it was a very low number. Now game 2, which was on ESPN, did 1.4 mil, which is fine. I mean, that's in line with, you know, to put that into context. That's quite a bit behind. So like Hawks Bucks was 4.6, but it's right there with, you know, like the Euro soccer stuff, 1.5, 1.6, College World Series 1.4. I mean, it's a fine rating. They've had 2 million before.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, so that's one thing is like the numbers or whatever. One thing I thought about though, and it comes up because Vanderbilt played so poorly the last 2 nights, is, you know, it is interesting how this sport. Look, I didn't end up last night. I texted my editor Mitch Light, and I'm like, I'm not going to write off this. You know, I mean, it's just they lost, and we'll write some about it, and we have something on Mississippi State too. But if that was college football, if this was college basketball, probably more likely to like rip Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. It just that may be another indicator of like quote unquote major sport. Now I still think there's a big difference between pro and college in general on especially individuals who are performing poorly. Like to me, if you're making millions doing it, that's one thing. Now, I guess moving forward, well, if you have a $20 million shoe deal as a college junior, I guess, maybe it's a little bit more treated like a pro athlete. That's possible. I remember as a young reporter at the Lansing State Journal, I covered a high school football game, and I came back with my game story, and I'm typing it up on the archaic little computer system we had back then in the 90s. And there was a fumble late in the game, and I wrote this kid's name, fumbled the ball, and the other team. And my editor was like, "Nah, man, these are high school kids. You can say they fumbled it. You put in the name of the kids who do good stuff. We don't need to put in the name of the kid who screwed up." And I'm like, okay, but then college is kind of in between, right? I mean, to me, look, you're never gonna not look if Jared Garantano throws a pick, but it's still in between to me in terms of just overall criticism.
Agreed.
Do you agree?
Yeah,
There's still a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big step forward for even just on scholarship, but there's a big step forward in the public viewing of major college sports. But that is one thing where I thought about this last night. It's like, is anybody going to rip Vanderbilt today? Like, just, you stink. What is wrong with you?
Why couldn't you hit the ball?
I mean, like when Tennessee basketball lost, I wrote a column about Rick Barnes, and again, it's like at some point, now that's Rick Barnes. That's the millionaire coach. But there's still, I think, more willingness to engage in this player or that player stunk it up versus this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like – and I think some of that is just how much coverage does this get during the year? Not much. You kind of swoop in at the end, right? And it's not like a football season or a basketball season where you're there all along.
Right.
But I think that's part of this too. I mean, as a major sport, if you want to be a major sport, maybe there should be more willingness to be critical.
ESPN 94.9 is the home for Nashville Sounds baseball. Tonight, the Sounds take on the Louisville Bats, the Triple-A affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds. The pregame show with Jeff Hem starts at 6:50, and first pitch is at 7:05. Nashville Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9, presented by 312 Pizza Company. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on Vanderbilt baseball and react a little bit to what Joe just threw out there. What's this going to do for popularity of college baseball in this state? And is college baseball one of the quote-unquote major sports now in this market? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Magoogs on Twitter saying, with the successful season Tennessee had, I would say that there is a growing demand for college baseball in this market. And that's the question we're throwing out there right now, Joe. With Vanderbilt's run back to the College World Series final with Tennessee and Omaha, I mean, look, there was a lot of interest in college baseball. We were taking calls, taking texts about it. People were bought in and invested, especially Tennessee fans. Vanderbilt fans are used to this. They're here every year, and they'll remind you. They're pretty good at college baseball, that's for sure. New experience for Tennessee fans this year as well. So my question is, what's the staying power? Like, is this going to be something that we continue to talk about to this degree on a yearly basis? Tony Vitello, Tim Corbin, obviously it's two coaches that you feel great about moving forward here as well. Vanderbilt's going to be back. Can Tony Vitello sustain this and continue to have Tennessee in this situation? That's going to be something that time is going to have to tell us, but is college baseball now a pretty big deal in this state? Well, how would you answer that? How would you go about kind of determining what this run does for the popularity of this sport?
Well, I mean, look, Vanderbilt, and there's way different ways to measure things. Like Vanderbilt's social media presence, for example, is massive. I mean, Vanderbilt baseball is the gold standard still, right up there with any program.
Yep.
And Vanderbilt fans, not the biggest alumni base, not the biggest fan base, but that's their sport. So that's already strong. That's as long as Tim Corbin's the coach and they're winning like this, there's going to be a good level of interest. But I think just Vanderbilt, the audience of people who pay some attention to Vanderbilt baseball has increased quite a bit this year because Tennessee fans now are invested in baseball. So to me, that means that there's more just interest and more following along, this recruit, that recruit. They're going to have some recruiting battles. I think they can both do just fine. It's not going to be a seesaw thing with Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt goes all over the place. But they're going to have some battles in this state, right? There's some very good talent in this state that maybe in the past, it's like if you're going to stay in the state, you're probably going to go to Vanderbilt. Well, that may not be the case anymore. But I think a lot more people are paying attention because Tennessee has such a massive fan base. Are Tennessee fans going to be hanging on, the recruiting sites, for a guy with 5 baseball hats in front of him as a baseball player? I don't know. Probably not like football. It'll never be that. But I bet you they kind of have an idea now of the class coming in and who's the superstar pitcher that may be a freshman next year, things like that. Whereas in the past, I think before Vitello, I think most Tennessee fans would just be like, I don't care about college baseball, and I especially don't care because Vanderbilt is good, and I'd rather, diminish that. Now there's some investment, so I think it's going to be great. If these two teams have more top 10 matchups and weekend series like that moving forward, I think every single time it'll be a lot of talk on this show and other shows, and it'll be good. It'll be a big step forward, I think.
Well, I think especially, look, Vanderbilt fans, I mean, they're already invested, right? I mean, they know what this program is. Tim Corbin is the best coach in the country, and they know what this program is and is going to continue to be as long as he's there. So I think you have that where you just know what that's going to be as you move forward here. The Tennessee part is interesting because – and they were talking about this on the broadcast in the College World Series, and I guess I really hadn't thought about it up until that point. But Tony Vitello, I think this fan base connects with him probably in a much different way than they have anybody since Bruce Pearl, maybe? Yeah. Like they loved Bruce Pearl when he was here. I think Tony Vitello is like right there. Maybe not to the same degree because it's college basketball versus college baseball. And Bruce Pearl was, as you said, he just kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. But I think this fan base has fallen in love with Tony Vitello. I think because of that, there is some sticking power with this. I mean, obviously, you got to take care of business on the field and recruiting and all that, but I think just him, the person, and the personality that he brings to the table, how fiery he is, I think Tennessee fans love Tony Vitello, and I think that helps add to the intrigue of, a mid-March game next season. People may be a lot more invested than they otherwise would have been simply because of him.
Right. I mean, it's still going to be you start paying attention, in the spring.
Sure.
You start paying attention like after basketball's over and all that stuff, but you start paying attention. I mean, before it was, again, talking to Sean Hunley a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about, his freshman year, people didn't even know that they had games that they played over there, Yeah. It's just like they're playing in front of empty stadium. And now that's going to be a hot ticket. And then especially if you get the commitment and you add to the fan experience there, that'll help too. But, yeah, again, to me, if Tennessee fans are going to start following this team, and a lot of that is the offseason, following recruiting, things like that, they're gonna keep an eye on Vanderbilt. It's like SEC football. Everybody knows, like, the 5-star just picked LSU over Alabama or whatever the case may be. I just think when you add a huge fan base like Tennessee to the people who care about it, I think it benefits everyone.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dave texting in. It's a good question, Joe. Do people care enough to criticize Vanderbilt's hitting coach in this World Series?
Baxter, I believe. He's also the recruiting coordinator, too. Yep. So that's the thing, if you're going to, you can
criticize him too much.
Yeah.
Just that number one class coming in.
Now, I guess, Mike Baxter, I guess, you could say, well, a lot of people could recruit at Vanderbilt right now, but I don't know. They've done pretty well. Well, hey, that's a good thing to bring up. It's like we ripped the heck out of Jim Chaney, right? Now, Jim Chaney is a OC made, what did he make? Like freaking $2 million, wouldn't take a pay cut for COVID.
Yeah,
a lot of reasons to rip that guy.
It's a little bit different. Like,
I don't know what Mike Baxter makes. We don't know what any of these guys make. They work at a private
Jim
school.
Chaney, though, has, the offensive coordinator has a direct impact on the game, right?
Yes.
Like, you're calling the plays. A lot of it in baseball is, are you making good decisions at the plate or are you not? Like, it comes down to the person, right? So it's a little bit different that way. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, too. Again, this lineup was, I would say, surprisingly good this year. So you could argue that, they got coached up, and then that's the problem with baseball. Anybody who's played it, it's such a frustrating sport. Yeah. It's such an easy sport to go into a hole, and sometimes you see a whole lineup do that. But, hey, look, if a certain part of a team performs poorly and a certain coach is in charge of it, it's a natural connection to make.
Let's go back to the text line. JD texting in. I think college baseball is going to continue to grow in popularity because it's one of the last few sports or a few pure sports left. With all the other sports being politicized to some degree, somehow college baseball has escaped this, and I think they're seeing a reward from it. Pair that with people that grew up watching Major League Baseball and stars of years past, children coming through these programs. I feel like that draws more attention to it as well. It will continue to grow until the NCAA finds a way to mess it up.
Okay.
The NCAA may be becoming less powerful by the day.
The NCAA is just a member organization.
Yeah.
It's the schools. But, yeah, the various parts of the NCAA are it's going to be great for them, man. They don't have to go out and see if Johnny Manziel just signed an autograph and got paid $100 for it. I mean, think of all the extra, the free time the enforcement staff has now. It's incredible.
What are they going to do?
I don't know. It'd be if they could be reassigned to finding better officials for games.
Maybe so. Good. Maybe that could be a bigger priority. Finding some umpires that know what a strike zone is.
Yeah,
be a good start.
There's a lot of other things that need to be done. Now you don't have to chase people down. It sounds awesome.
When we come back, we will switch gears. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final last night. Montreal played their butts off. Does that change the way we feel about the series moving forward, or was last night their missed opportunity? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. Here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Got a loaded show for you today. It is day 1 of name, image, and likeness laws in college athletics, and some movement already all over the place between college athletics in this country. We'll get to that coming up at 8 o'clock. Going to have David Ubben from The Athletic join us at 8:30 to talk about how that's affecting the Tennessee Volunteers so far. Already some movement this morning on that front as well. And by the way, another transfer yesterday out of the Tennessee football program. So another day that ends in Y at this point. So
yeah, what's up with why is
Middleton?
Why is Daryl Middleton leaving?
I don't know. I have no
That's
idea.
a loss.
And why is it happening on June 30th?
Well, I know that today now. July 1st. This is also the deadline for the one-time transfer, right? I think it is.
Yeah.
So that's why.
I guess that's why. But
by the way, yeah.
Why'd you wait so long?
Well, right. I mean, I maybe just not sure, and then it's like, if you're going to get the one time, you got to do it right now. But that was surprising. By the way, too, if Scottie Pippen Jr. was going to transfer. That's the deadline for him too. That's an interesting situation with him.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't even at the comp. He's not really on the radar to be drafted. So to me, it's either you're coming back to Vanderbilt now, or maybe G League it or whatever, right? Or Europe or something. But anyway,
see what happens on that front as well. A lot to get to on college athletics coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Game 2 last night, Joe, of the Stanley Cup Final. And Tampa Bay wins again. 3-1 win last night for the Lightning. They take a 2-0 series lead, 2 wins away from back-to-back Stanley Cups for the Lightning. And it was one of those games, Joe, where I thought Montreal did a pretty good job at holding them down for the most part. Tampa Bay finishes with 23 shots on goal, and they had a couple of turnovers that ended up costing them. There was basically a Superman dive from Blake Coleman where he scores with a 0.3 of a second left in the second period to give the Lightning a 2-1 lead. But Montreal, they outshot them 43-23 last night. Just couldn't get to the middle and get some of these quality opportunities. And I guess you could view that a couple of different ways. That was, to me, a game where I was like, okay, well, Montreal, you can at least play with them. So it's not like you're just getting blown off the map out there, but I think you can also view it as a pretty good opportunity for Montreal last night to get back in this series and even things up at 1. And you play that well and you still lose 3-1. That's maybe not a good sign moving forward here. Now, let's be honest. You have to beat Tampa Bay 4 out of 5 times now. That's just, in all likelihood, not going to happen. So, big win last night for Tampa Bay, and I'll be honest with you, Joe, kind of feels like the series is over at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of too bad. It's kind of too bad that this is the final series. I'm sorry, great story.
All respect
Montreal.
to Shea Weber.
Yeah. It's cool that he gets to play in a Stanley Cup final, but they're not going to win it, and they had to get one of the two. And it seems to me like, having not watched every second of that game, but it seems to me like a lot of those shots were sort of from the outside and not real high danger stuff. Yep. Still, it's a good number, and certainly watching a lot of the third period. They had some chances there, down a goal. They had a few real nice chances, and just couldn't bury it. But it's going to be tough, and we could have had better series than this, but we didn't.
We did not. And Mike Kelly from the NHL Network, who kind of keeps track of these advanced stats, he tallied up the grade A chances last night. I mentioned the shots being 43-23 for Montreal against Tampa Bay. The grade A chances 5-1 in favor of Tampa Bay. So 43 shots on goal, one grade A chance, according to Mike Kelly.
Boy, that's tight. I feel like I saw a couple at least grade B plus chances.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree with that, but it's not much more than that. Tampa Bay, it's kind of amazing to watch them and hear what the narrative is around them, because they're known as like this offensive juggernaut. Which they are. They could score. I think probably the key to their success the last 2 years is they can just lock it down. They lock it down defensively. They got the best goaltender in the world. They got maybe the best defenseman in the world. And you got 3 guys at the forward position that are pretty good on that part of the ice as well. And then, look, you've got guys like Blake Coleman, Superman diving out of nowhere, scoring goals. Andre Palat scoring big goals. I mean, they're just loaded from top to bottom. And you brought it up the other day when we were talking about this. You look ahead to next year, and, yeah, there are some challenges that they're going to have in order to get salary cap compliant, just like a lot of teams when you start to make runs like this. But they're not receiving enough love next year either for maybe going back and three-peating, because I think at this point I would be shocked if Montreal comes back and wins. Like, I expect Montreal to get a game. I don't think that they're going to get swept, but I would be shocked if Montreal comes back and wins, and that means back-to-back Stanley Cup champions for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think their chances of three-peating may be pretty good too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, what is the reasoning to not pick them next year?
I don't know. My guess is because it's just so hard to three-peat. I don't know. Like, is that it? Because it's not like they're losing.
I mean, their
major
core,
players.
their core is coming
core
back.
is going to be
right?
there. Yeah,
including a pretty good goaltender.
Yeah, I would say so. So I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is for that, but they just continue to chip away. I mean, look, I didn't pick them to win this year. I picked them to win last year. I thought that Carolina would be the one coming out of this division this year, and Tampa Bay dispatched with them pretty easily in these playoffs. They're so good. And I know a lot of people are talking about the salary cap with them, and I get it. They're $18 million over the cap right now. It's not good. But, I mean, look, it's not their fault. That's the NHL's fault. You got to find a way to fix it. This happened in 2015 with the Blackhawks as well. I don't know why it's so hard. And Gord Miller of TSN tweeted this out last night. Like, this is not the Lightning's fault, but if you want to fix it, if you're the NHL, it's pretty simple. You've got to be cap compliant in the regular season with your roster. Just make your playoff roster with the lineup that you're dressing, the 20 skaters that you have with the 18 skaters and 2 goalies. That lineup's got to be cap compliant. It's not really that hard. I don't know why this can't be a very simple fix for the NHL.
Yeah. And this is another one of those situations that everybody screams about it, and then you forget about it until the next time it happens, But
and it will happen
probably,
again.
yeah, probably worth exploring. But yeah, I mean, obviously they're gonna have to say goodbye to some people. But I mean, Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, Johnson. So, I mean, everybody's signed up for next year. Hedman. I mean, gosh, they have a lot of You look at their salaries. I mean, it's a lot of people in the 5, 6, 7, 8 range. More than when you look at the numbers, it's like, wait,
they're going to have to trade somebody.
How do they pay all these people?
Well, they're going to have to trade.
They're going to have to.
It's going to have to happen.
So they're going to have to be weakened to some extent. But again, to me, when you have, they're not going to move any of the stars from, No. I mean, Kucherov and Stamkos and Point, who's only 25.
I mean, you're talking Tyler Johnson or Alex Killorn, maybe Andre Palat, like one of those guys.
Yeah.
Which is, look, they've been really important to what they've been able to do. But that's going to be how you have to fix it if you're Tampa Bay. You're going to have to trade a couple guys.
Palat's a free agent after next year,
yeah.
So there's so they'll look different, but I still feel good. I mean, maybe it's just as simple as, if everybody's picking Colorado, it's just this idea of like, well, they're just
like at some point.
That's what Tampa. Well, they're loaded.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to happen. Maybe they are just going to overtake them, But I still want to see Colorado win in that gritty style in the playoffs.
Yeah, once you get to the conference final one time,
right?
Be a good start.
Just say
haven't done that yet.
I want them to say bleep it and let's go.
Yeah, don't we all? With Adrian Dater. Oh boy, yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. And then the other part of this for Montreal, like I feel like this is really kind of their last shot because you've got a young roster. You've got Suzuki and some young guys that you feel good about, but Carey Price not getting any younger. Shea Weber's not getting any younger. Corey Perry and Eric Stahl out there zooming around. They're not getting any younger either. So this is probably going to be a one-and-done trip for Montreal to the Stanley Cup Final would be my guess. And then they brought this up on the broadcast the other day. talking about, the opportunity here for Shea Weber specifically, if they can win a cup and even getting to this point, what does that do for him when it comes to the Hall of Fame? Because I think he's right there. I mean, you're talking about he's been in the league for 16 years. He's played at a high level for 16 years. The offensive numbers are there. The goal scoring certainly is there. And people will say this doesn't matter, but it does. I mean, when you're known for something, like he's known for that slap shot. I mean, think about Al McGinnis. He was a great player, but he's known for slap shot. Shea Weber, he's known for that howitzer of a shot. He's won 2 gold medals. It's not an NHL Hall of Fame. It's a Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, I think he's right there. And if they were to win a cup, I think it certainly puts him over the top. I think he may be a Hall of Famer anyway, though. So he's right on the edge.
If he goes in the Hall of Fame, whose jersey is on his display?
I don't know, man.
Especially if he wins one with the Canadians.
If he won one, I don't think there'd be any discussion.
Yeah, then I would agree.
It may. I mean, look.
But his best seasons were in Nashville, though. I mean, you could say he's been great this year, but like if somebody wins a cup with another team, despite their clear best seasons being somewhere else, I still think it'd be really silly to put him in a Canadians one up there.
That'd be interesting. I mean, if I were him, I mean, when he came back, that first year when he came back in the presser, it was sort of like, it was fresh then, but he wasn't happy.
Oh no,
about all that
no.
At all. So does that influence how he would think about that? I don't even know like what the displays are like, but I assume you got to pick a uniform, right?
And
there's a picture of you in a uniform, right?
Maybe they just do multiple. I don't know.
Do a split screen thing?
Maybe so. Well, what happens when you get a Hall of Famer that's played for like 13 teams? How do you handle that?
That's the thing I was thinking about, some of these Red Wings teams that I used to love, where it's like you got like Brett Hull.
Brett Hull played for everybody.
You got Luc Robitaille in there. Got a little Shanahan. Shoot, man, Dino Ciccarelli. I mean, is Dino Ciccarelli he better be in the freaking Hockey Hall of Fame.
I think he is.
That's like my favorite player ever, man. Talk about a guy who used to just get the crap beat out of him to stand in front of the net.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of those guys, like, what were their choices? I don't know. Now I'm intrigued to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame and see.
Cicarelli is in the Hall of Fame, by the way. 2010, he was inducted. There you go.
What uniform does it say? Does it show? Does it show a picture?
I'm literally looking at a picture of him right now in 3 different uniforms. So I have no idea.
There you go.
3, I have no clue.
Anybody who's been to the Hockey Hall of Fame, let me know. Dino Ciccarelli, what uniform is he in?
Including one uniform of the London Knights, his junior team.
So nice.
I'm going to assume it's not that one.
Like Brett Hull, he's got to be in a Blues uniform, right? He's got to be.
Yeah.
Like some of the Gretzky is in an Oilers uniform, right? I mean, of course.
Gretzky in a Blues?
Or is Gretzky in a Kings?
He would be.
Guess.
No, he's got to be in an Oilers.
He's got to be in Oilers. Although
do they do jerseys at the Hall of Fame?
But
maybe they just do the plaque. I don't know.
Maybe they take it out of the equation.
Put a hat on the bust.
I like to think that Shea Weber, because I think he, like you said, man, you factor in the entirety of the career with the gold medals.
I think he's a Hall of Famer.
The longevity, I mean, I think he is too. I'd like to think that he has his choice, and it's an intriguing one.
It is.
They'll probably just pick a Team Canada jersey.
Yeah.
No, there you go.
You know what? Milwaukee Admirals going in the Hall of Fame as a Milwaukee Admiral.
Oh, nice.
Maybe that'll be what happens. When we come back, one team has punched their ticket to the NBA Finals, and meanwhile, the Eastern Conference Finals, we've got ourselves a series. Lots of stuff going on right now in the NBA. We'll get to all of it coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and if you've been watching the NBA playoffs from the sidelines, now is the perfect time to get in on the action with FanDuel Sportsbook, because during the conference finals, new users get 30-1 odds on any team to win their next game, and that means you can win $150 on a $5 bet. Conference finals, one already done, but one continuing to take place tonight between Milwaukee and Atlanta. There are even more ways to win on FanDuel throughout the playoffs, and when you do win, getting your money is a layup. You'll get paid in as little as 24 hours, plus the app is so easy to use. So just sign up with promo code ROB to bet the NBA Conference Finals with 30-1 odds. Once again, that promo code is ROB to unlock 30-1 odds on any playoff team to win their next game exclusively on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only. Must wager in designated offer market. A $10 first deposit required. $150 max bonus. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. This Friday, it's your chance to participate in the Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. If you correctly guess which player scores a goal in the game this Saturday night, you win a prize pack and a 4-pack of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Next chance to participate is this Friday morning, tomorrow at 9:45. We'll have that opportunity for you coming up then. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And a ticket has been punched to the NBA Finals. The Phoenix Suns, they get it done last night in an offensive explosion in the second half from Chris Paul, who was unbelievable last night outside of the flopping escapades that continue with him. It's awesome to watch. Not a big Chris Paul fan, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's hard, man, because he was incredible last night. And that little behind-the-back move where he leaves himself alone in the
great
baseline.
Player, but stop flopping.
Yeah, but I don't even think that DeMarcus Cousins should have had a foul on that play.
No.
I really don't. He was reaching for the ball, wasn't he?
Yes.
Like the elbow happened to brush Chris Paul, and then he's like, oh, and then Chris Paul's like, yeah, you tweeted about, get him out of here, get him out, you know.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts.
Chris Paul doing that's just become so much a part of the shtick. It's like Gallagher smashing watermelons at this point. Like, as annoying as it is and as gimmicky and just as bad as it looks, like at this point I've accepted that's Chris Paul. It's Chris and Cliff Paul.
Yes.
But people
The
want
holy
Gallagher.
duo.
Well, people
nicely
want
done.
Gallagher to smash watermelons.
Yeah.
Like, people go to
not
the
anymore.
show. Did he pass away?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I just
I
knew
thought
that,
that's what
that
you
was a
meant.
shtick,
idea.
and I just think I don't get it. I'll
I was
never
about
get
to
it.
say rest in peace Gallagher, but people go to the show.
He might
some
be,
people,
yeah, I don't know.
people. Well, I'll Google that.
Yeah.
But some people, wear the raincoats. They like that. No. Like, who goes to the game and wants Chris Paul to act like this? Like, if he didn't act like this, I think he'd be one of the most popular players.
But he's done this his whole career. That's
Yes.
why it's
But I
very
feel like,
annoying.
isn't it worse though? Like, I feel like it is. It's almost like playing the heel now in the last few years.
Yeah.
More.
I don't
Maybe
know.
I'm wrong.
He rubbed me the wrong way at Wake Forest too. Like, he was
Yeah.
just like that, except maybe he was a little bit of a dirtier player at Wake Forest. Now it's maybe less dirty, more annoying and flopping
Yeah.
But he's in the
that.
finals.
He's in the finals.
for the first time.
A 130 to
Took 'em a
103
while.
win last night for the Phoenix Suns against the Clippers. Before we get into the game, did y'all see Steve Ballmer last night?
That
Yeah.
was
The owner
weird.
of the Clippers.
That was interesting.
Celebrating, I guess, is the way to put it.
I'd really
It's
like
just
to unsee that. Celebrating,
thigh
grabbing people.
sexually assaulting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. That was
Squeezing some thighs, man. You know,
I don't know what was
give
going on there
Give those
last
thighs
night.
a squeeze.
Is that your first instinct whenever you see a bucket go in? I got to squeeze my friend's thighs really
Yeah,
quick.
really quickly.
And they were both like, "What is going
I
on,
was
man?"
all over Twitter last night. I was like, Steve Ballmer, he's an interesting guy.
That
out there.
went very viral. And then, someone was like, okay, and then the Suns start just
wearing
rolling.
him
And
out.
someone was
Yeah.
like, "Can we get another Ballmer shot now?"
What's he doing over there now?
Yeah, that was interesting.
Chris Paul, 41 points last night, 8 assists. The Phoenix Suns going back to the finals for the first time since, 93?
Correct.
The team that absolutely should have won the NBA Finals that year.
And then
With-
Michael Jordan.
And then there'd be a little bit less of the Jordan hero worship. There'd be no one could tell Barkley that that he doesn't have a ring, because he should have, because he was, to me, I mean, he was the MVP that year, and he was unbelievable. That team with KJ, with Marley, man.
Thunder
90s
Day.
I
basketball.
love those Phoenix teams when they got Barkley, and they really should have beat Jordan,
You know what I also love and miss?
but they didn't.
90s basketball jerseys.
That
I will
was the
say,
best
though,
part about the 90s.
That was the best part about
Like,
the 90s.
let's not
The
kid
jerseys were
ourselves.
awesome. Like, I don't know what the Utah Jazz have been trotting out there the last couple of years with like this burnt orange crap. But the 90s,
sunrise
yeah, the
jerseys.
sunrise jerseys. But the 90s Jazz jerseys were amazing. I will say I do like the Phoenix Suns jerseys now. The Valley ones, they're pretty good. I like those.
Those are nice, but the ones back in the '90s were sick too, with the sun
they're
on
awesome.
it. Like they were so more cartoonish in the '90s that they're just better. The Raptors had like the actual dinosaur on the jersey. There were more pinstripes.
Life was so much simpler back then.
See, but
Man.
when I think of the 90s, I think of the Pistons. Let's go teal and put a horse on the jersey.
Yeah, that was bad.
I mean, there was
Hey, I'll take that. I
was
kind of
bad.
like it.
the best jerseys of the 90s are like the jerseys that were still the jerseys in the 70s and still are now, like, say, I don't know, Lakers, Celtics, Bulls. I mean,
I don't know if they were the best.
Sorry.
jerseys, but yeah.
The Bulls pinstripes, when they had the black
Oh,
with
yeah.
the pinstripes on them, those are sick.
those are pretty cool.
The ones now, I guess, they're iconic because of one like era of team. But
But I like when a team has it's a branding world now today in sports, right? When
It
a
is.
team has a brand, like, stick with it. It works. I know that as that's the Boston Celtics, right?
Sure.
I mean, I would like to see the Phoenix Suns still have the Phoenix Suns jerseys from back then.
93?
When KJ was their point guard. Yeah.
Well, let them know.
I'm just saying,
Let's hope
I just, all this jersey.
they've never had a bad one though. Like the Suns have changed a lot. They've
Yeah,
done a
they've been
lot
pretty
of
good.
different rebranding, but I don't think they've ever had a bad one.
But what's the point of? I mean, other than now fans have to buy this one too. I understand
That's the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I appreciate sports enterprises that have something
Classic.
and stick with it. Yeah. Like the stupid, whatever. I've already, I think, complained this week about the pro combat uniforms in college.
Yes, you have.
Whatever.
The Suns punching their ticket to the NBA Finals, and the door's still open in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks and the Hawks tied at 2. And now the question is, who in the world's going to be available for this game tonight? Is Trae Young going to be able to play? What's going on with Giannis? He hyperextended his knee. There is no structural damage to Giannis and his knee, so
great news.
You feel great about that, but can he play? That's going to be the question as they move forward tonight in Game 5. Is Trae Young going to be in there? Is Giannis going to be in there? And if it's not, if it's a wash, we had Jeff Zilgett on yesterday, and I agree. I think that favors Atlanta. I thought it was really embarrassing the way Milwaukee came out in that game the other night, and it felt like a team that just said, oh, well, they don't have Trae Young, so we'll be fine. We're just going to cruise. And if you have that mentality in the Eastern Conference Final, that does not really speak well to your group, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were absolutely a notch below in intensity, which is inexcusable. So I agree. And I don't think either will play tonight. I mean, Trae, maybe. There's a chance. But based on it's going to be like a game-time decision and there's pain and the movement, to me, them knowing there's no way Giannis is playing. Now, I hope we get to see him before the series is over, but there's no way tonight when you just hyperextend your knee. So I would think that the Hawks would probably be like, you know what, let's give Trae a couple more days. And maybe they'll both be back for Game 6. That'd be awesome. But I think tonight it's going to – I don't know. Maybe Milwaukee then responds to that.
Maybe. I mean, they'll
be
back at home.
I mean, I could see them still finding a way. I still think that they're overall better than Atlanta. You take those two stars out, I think they're still better.
Oh, and then throw in the fact that Clint Capella might not play either.
Yeah.
And that's the NBA rebounding champ.
Yep.
And the guy who basically in all the games that Giannis has struggled in this series is because he can't drive past Clint Capella, and Clint Capella is affecting every single shot he has around the rim.
He just dunks everything on the other end. So yeah.
Exactly. And so if there's no Capella, I mean, you're going to have to play Onyeka Okongwu some starter minutes, and I don't think he's played more than 20 in a postseason game all season long. So that's tough. It's a experience he's never had. So
yeah, that would be real tough for them.
So regardless of how this series ends up, and let's just say at some point Giannis is able to play again and Trae Young's able to play again, either one of those teams, are they taking down Phoenix at this point? Phoenix looks pretty good. They look pretty good out there in the West.
I think Milwaukee, if Giannis were to be full Giannis, I think we could have a good series there. But is that realistic? I don't know. I think Phoenix is definitely the favorite to win it all now.
Yeah, that's fair to say just because of how bad Milwaukee looked, even with Giannis in Game 4. But, Milwaukee's done that a couple times in these playoffs.
They have.
They will lay some absolute total eggs. I mean, they did it in the Brooklyn series. They almost lost by 50 in Game 2. They're just so deep, too, that I'm just not willing to throw it out. Even without Giannis, I fully expect them to beat the Hawks in Game 5 just because, when Chris Middleton's on, he's one of the best scorers. Yeah, it's like a mirage to me. I just almost literally cannot believe that I'm seeing them in the conference finals to the point that I'm just going to shout it down as much as I can until it finally happens. They can finally get off my TV.
That's right.
And it's not like that I hate the Hawks. It's just this is a team that was 41-31, and if they didn't make a coaching change, who knows where this team's at right now.
Is this good for the league? You got Phoenix in the finals. You got either Milwaukee or Atlanta going to be in the finals. I love it. I do. I love it. I am glad that there is something different happening in the NBA. I think one of the worst criticisms that's been very valid of the NBA the last decade plus has been you can pretty much go chalk in the playoffs, and that's what it's going to be. I love this. I wonder if this is good news overall for the NBA.
I think it is. I think in the short term, the ratings will suffer. But Devin Booker is
pretty awesome.
A guy who deserves to have the spotlight. And again, in 2015, 14, Golden State, I'm not saying Phoenix is about to do that, but introducing new stars I think is great. There's a lot of them around this league, so I'm into it, and granted, I'm biased because I love the NBA.
Yeah.
But I think overall having different markets and different stars is good.
When we come back, we will switch gears and get into the Titans, taking your thoughts as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll do that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Mark from Clarksville on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Orlando Magic pinstripe jersey, those were the best. It's pretty nice.
Those were awesome. The Penny days, those
were
very cool uniforms.
A lot of great uniforms in the 90s.
What do they wear now? What do they? I don't even know. What the heck do the Magic have now?
They're not awful. I'll say that. I kind of like their jerseys now, but you can't beat the old pinstripes.
No. Why move away from that?
That's a really good question.
I mean, the Pistons, to their credit, they did the stupid teal little unicorn thing for about 3-4 years, and then they're like, actually, let's go back to the red block letters, and that's what they are. I mean, there's a certain brand to it. Now, granted, they've been crappy at basketball for a long time now, but still, there's a brand to it.
Those teal ones, I'll always like those. Most people think those are ugly.
You tell them, Elijah.
They're sick.
There you go.
Those are kind of nice.
Come on.
That's very 90s.
Well, there is a little bit of a retro, because you're right. It is in line with some of these other 90s jerseys, right?
Sure.
So now there's a retro thing to that, which I get. But
speaking of,
I only do 80s parties, not 90s parties.
Speaking of, I mean, now the door is open for some throwbacks in the NFL as well. I'd love to see a Houston Oilers throwback for the Titans. I think we're going to see it. Jim Wyatt was on with the guys yesterday on Darren Donica Chase and said I think maybe in a couple years we might see that.
That's a couple of years? I thought it was happening this year.
Well, it's happening this year, but if you're going to do the throwback helmet, you got to have the throwback jersey too. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think at some point it's going to happen. I think it'd be a great look. Those nice baby blue, love you blue Houston Oilers jerseys, modern day, maybe modernized a little bit with throwback helmets. I think it'd be great.
I think it's cool.
And I think you should wear it against the Houston Texans every time.
Oh,
because that would go over well.
You troll the Houston.
Yeah.
Greater Houston area.
Why not?
Yeah, sure. I'm here for it.
So, Joe, just a few weeks away now from training camp for the Titans, and the team is off. They're off doing kind of their vacation stuff now before the season really begins and this season gets underway. And some interesting position battles that we've talked about earlier this week. But I want to talk today about some guys that we know they're going to be playing. They're going to be in the mix here for the Titans. But what does their future look like? And I think an interesting year for a couple of different players here with the Titans. I want to start with Rashaan Evans. We know that he struggled last year. 2019, I thought he was coming on, playing pretty well, especially towards the end of the season, into the playoffs. And then, much like the entire defense last year, it just didn't work. And Rashaan Evans did not play well. And the Titans have not picked up his fifth-year option, which tells me, between that and then what they did in the draft, with drafting Monty Rice in the third round, that the writing appears to be on the wall for Rashaan Evans at this point. And I would put the percentage chance of him being here next season right around about 9%, maybe. Maybe that's too high. I've seen some people say 0% that Rashaan Evans is back. Is there anything that changes that? Like, what does Rashaan Evans have to do this year to secure a spot with this team next year? And the other question is, if he does play that well this year, does that not make it more likely that he leaves and gets more money on the open market? How do you kind of view the situation that Rashaan Evans is in with this group and this organization heading into a very important year for him in his career?
Yeah, well, in this league, every team every year, there's a lot of guys who they're playing, even if it's not a quote-unquote contract year. They're playing. It's really important just on a personal level, and he's certainly one of those guys. I don't see how you are going to have Evans and Rice together, because that's the only – the thing is, of course, Jayon Brown back for this year, and I know it's like a longer deal, but it's just void years to make the deal work. He's back for this year. He may find the market to his liking and move on. To me, that's a much bigger priority for the Titans would be to keep him, because he gives you more of the coverage element, and he's just a more instinctive playmaker, from what we've seen of Evans. If Evans has a great year, Evans in some ways is very impressive. He's an explosive player, but
he's a goal line savant. He's unbelievable on the goal line.
You want him, you want him in the middle of that short yardage. He's great, but I don't see how Evans and Rice coexist. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that could work. It's not like I've seen a ton of Rice, but what we know of Rice, he reads as the replacement for Evans. So, yeah, I guess I wouldn't put it at 0, but I'd put it very low. And it's a huge year for Rashaan Evans in that way. His skill set is, let's face it, it's diminished in terms of market value in the NFL, Not that there's not a place for it, but everybody's looking for linebackers who can go out and cover people and take a back out of the backfield, cover a tight end, and that's not what he is. And he's never really – he came in with the talk of, he can be a little bit more of an edge presence maybe, move around. They actually did try that some last year, but it's not really – from what we've seen, it's not really his thing. So it's a big year on that front. I think other guys who I would count in that in a little bit different way, Taylor Lewan is coming back from the ACL, huge for the Titans, huge cap number 2. Kevin Byard, also a bounce-back year, big cap number. Those guys sign big deals. Obviously what happens is if you're not keeping it at a certain level at some point, it becomes more cost-effective to cut that player, as we just saw in the cornerback situation. So, like those two guys I look at, key pillars, foundation core guys for this team, but it changes fast in this league.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Got a texture that says Evans is gone. He's either going to not bounce back and the Titans won't want him, or he's going to ball out and the Titans won't pay him. I hear that, and I think that's a very popular theme, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. But like at some point, if he goes out there and plays really well this year, like at some point for John Robinson and the Titans, maybe it's a good idea to keep your first-round picks as they move forward. We think we're going to get to that point at any point where you draft somebody in the first round, and by the time their next contract comes around, they're still as a member of your team and still in your organization. Like, that's got to start happening at some point with this group, right?
Yeah, I mean you can't do it all the time because then you'll be over the cap.
Sure,
but yeah, you want. I don't know what the exact percentage hit rate would be, but I would think you'd want it to be around 50%, something like that. You want to draft guys who, you want to give that second deal.
Well, and to that point,
now they've drafted guys not in the first round who they have.
Right, and I feel pretty confident Jeffrey Simmons is probably going to get a second deal here. It's just my guess, but so it's not I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean, think about it. Jack Conklin is somewhere else. Corey Davis is now somewhere else. Adoree Jackson is now somewhere else. I mean, you're talking a lot of first-round picks here that have not gotten second deals here with this group. And then, Isaiah Wilson is a situation all unto himself, and we've talked extensively about Isaiah Wilson here on the show, but a lot of first-round picks that you've had in John Robinson's tenure that just aren't here anymore. That's got to start to change at some point.
Maybe you should have traded a first for Julio instead of a second. You do well in the second.
There were people that suggested that.
Just trade the first, and then you don't have to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, I think Simmons right now, I would guess that. I wouldn't call it an absolute lock either, though. I mean, I think it's an important year for him. After again, I think last year he was banged up, but being banged up is probably the number one reason that a lot of these things don't work out, right? So, but if he has the year that I think he might have, and he talked about it, he's gotten in much better shape. If he can stay healthy, then I think that'll be an easy one.
Not going vegan, though.
No.
So that life's not for him.
Yeah. I mean, Jarrell Casey went vegan and stuff, and I got to be honest, like, I didn't see, like, this body transformation with him. Nah. I mean, I was like, man, throw in a steak, right?
Eat a cheeseburger every now and then, man.
Well, I mean, cheeseburger, maybe not, but like a steak, like, some lean meat.
Grilled chicken?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. I mean, I
don't know how people do it. There's no way I could do it.
If I went vegan, could I have donuts?
I don't think
probably
so, because
not.
that sounds like too good of a deal.
There's got to be some kind of animal product in there, right?
I would guess.
There's no telling what's in there sometimes.
I mean, you obviously can't have butter. But, I mean, like, you could go vegan or /vegetarian and eat terribly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sit there and eat Cheez-Its all day if you want. That's vegetarian.
Wouldn't be vegan,
It's not vegan, but it's vegetarian.
There you go.
Yeah, vegan's tough. That one is.
No
it's
way.
like basically like
that one forces you to eat
tree stalks.
A lot of kale.
Sounds very appetizing.
I like kale loaded with bacon and feta.
Yeah, me too. See if we can't work on that. We'll continue the conversation on the Titans when we come back. Taking your thoughts on our text line as well, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Go to thegamenashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. Deals happening now include a $50 Bad Axe Throwing Nashville gift card for only $25, a buy one, get one free for Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon, and $20 Grain and Berry gift cards for only $10. Get yours now while they last at thegamenashville.com. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Talking Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We're going to get into a little name, image, and likeness discussion coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, including something that Elijah Campbell just sent me on Twitter, which looks like basically a cameo for college athletes. So that's going to be something.
Does this mean Stillman's going to try to horn his way in on that, too?
No.
Stillman's like, hey, I was a manager for Louisville. Can I get in on this?
Maybe so.
Dreamfield with Jared.
Dreamfield with Jared.
See, this is no fun. He's on vacation, so he's probably not listening.
Wow.
Although, he may be pumping iron right now on vacation and listening on the app.
Maybe so.
I'd like to think so.
Nothing would get me more motivated than listening to Joe rant while I work out.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I now need to go to Jared's Cameo page. It's been a long time. Remember that day when he went on Cameo? That was fun.
That was fun. We need to check and see if there have been any continual requests on that front. I hadn't heard him bring it up in a while.
Yeah. So Dreamfield is like Cameo. So it's like wish people different things or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out what it is right now.
Send personalized messages.
All I saw was a screen grab from somebody else's tweet where it had just players and prices. And like De'Aaron King was like, what, $1,000, something like that. Mackenzie Melton was $2,000. Michael Penix from Indiana was like $500. I don't know what it is they're doing.
Matt Corral's $10,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
And there's no picture of him. There's no picture.
And what's funny is,
$10,000.
I saw that screen grab.
SEC, it just means more, baby.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's incredible. It's from
awesome.
Bunky Perkins' Twitter account.
You imagine somebody paying
incredible.
$10,000 to get a personalized message from Matt Corral.
Yeah, you might need to adjust. There's going to be a lot of, like in general, there's going to be a lot of market adjusting here soon.
Yeah.
You know?
Get more bang for your buck at the Golden Corral.
Yes, you could.
Ooh.
That is for sure.
Haven't been there in a while.
It's like, I mean, look, Matt Corral, good player last year for Ole Miss. Nice season for him under Lane Kiffin.
Was Jared
Don't know that I'd pay $10,000.
Yeah, that's a little much. Was Jared $15 last year? Has he lowered the price? It says book now $15.
I think that's the minimum.
Did he start? Is that what he was? I think he was more.
There's some for like $5.
Really?
You'd be amazed. Now I don't know who these people are. See, what me and my friends like to do is we'll get one of those $5 ones and we'll just like have them roast like all of us.
Yeah.
And then that's good, cheap thrills and funny action. But
so Jared's not.
You can get
them
pretty cheap.
Wow. I'm shocked.
I'm clicking on his reviews right now, but the website's going it's going slow. It may be because it's overloaded with requests.
Just great takes.
I'm trying to get in here.
See what happens on that front. Right now, talking Titans, and you brought up Jeffrey Simmons, and I agree. This is a big year for him. I feel like his 5th-year option will be picked up by the Titans. But look, I mean, I think he's been very good since he's come in with the Titans. I think there's another level that he needs to get to, and theoretically, he's got the pieces in place around him this year to do that. You got Autry coming in on the other side, Harold Landry, which you feel good about if you're a Titans fan, but Bud Dupree coming in as well to bolster the pass rush should help Jeffrey Simmons if they can all stay healthy and be a front where maybe he can wreak more havoc coming in up the middle. Now, we've talked about him before. I think that he was dealing with an injury at the end of last year, and that's part of why the production wasn't as strong in the second half of the season, and he wasn't making quite as many game-changing plays. Like, as bad as that defense was last year, Jeffrey Simmons had some big moments, whether it was, deflecting a pass at the line of scrimmage against Jacksonville or forcing a fumble against the Bears. I mean, he had a lot of big moments last year for that Titans defense. You need to continue to do that this year if you're Jeffrey Simmons, but I still, and I'll repeat this until I see him do it, I think he needs to be more of a factor in the pass rush, and that's got to happen starting this year, I think, for Jeffrey Simmons on that front.
Yeah, like we did the thing on MVP for the Titans at the Athletic, and I did the really deep dive to say the quarterback. However, although again, I bet you 85% of people would not pick the quarterback for this team around the league. But like there's a guy. If it's if it was Jeffrey Simmons, what would that mean?
That would either be great for Jeffrey Simmons or really bad news for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to – I guess if anyone on defense were to be that, then what does that say about your offense? It could say just that it's so equitable and spread out that just everybody's eating, the offense is scoring, but there's no – that's why I picked Tannehill, by the way, because the QB is going to have numbers if that's the case. But a guy to step up and be a star for this defense, to be just a game wrecker, I think he has that in him. I think we've seen glimpses of it. And I think early last year you saw more than a glimpse, and then later in the year you saw a lot less. And when a guy is basically not practicing and playing on Sundays, that tells you what you need to know about his physical condition. And by that I mean, the injury situation. But it's also very hard to avoid that in this league.
It is.
Some guys can still perform through that, and some guys are more durable and avoid it. Yes, I did. I know. I just muted myself in the middle of the sentence. Right. And then so many great players in this league don't become great players because of injuries.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Ron text again. Good morning, guys. I feel the Titans just need to be average this year on defense and let the offense carry them. Next year, the cap will be better, and we can really fix the defense and give them an identity. If the team plays well together this year, it only makes sense to try to keep our core players with the help of the cap going up next year. The offense should be able to put up 24 points plus every game. I'm excited about this season and what the defense could look like.
It better be more than 24.
Yeah.
That's an almost 7-point drop, touchdown less than last year. You want to be hovering around 30.
Around there. Yeah.
You should be.
Well, and to his other point about the cap going up, I agree. That's going to help. But if you're the Titans on that side of the ball on defense, you're hoping that things go well enough this year where you're not making a whole lot of changes. Like you've got your secondary is young. So it's not like you're going to be bringing in a ton of new pieces next year, theoretically, in the secondary. What you're hoping is the pass rush works out with Bud Dupree, and you don't have to go spend an arm and a leg to go get another pass rusher next year as well.
Yeah,
draft one.
You'd have to just draft high.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You've invested now, and again, that's where I look at the Rashaan Evans thing. But the Byard is interesting too. Just Byard is. I think he's the leader of this defense. He's been a great player for the Titans. You get to cap numbers that are about $15 million, and it's like he's got to be a top 5 safety in the NFL, or at some point a hard decision is made. As much of a not only great player as he's been for the Titans, but just representative, all that stuff.
Sure,
it's just that stuff eventually takes a back seat to the cold hard economics of this league. So it's a big year for him.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to find out this year, hopefully. Was last year a result of everything around him, or was he diminishing a little bit as a player? I tend to think it was a result of everything going on around him, and we'll see whether or not that's significantly improved this year, because I think it's going to be, to Ron's point on the text line, I think if you polled Titans fans right now and you said, hey, your defense, they're going to finish with 43 sacks, you're going to end up right around 17th in the league in total defense. I think every Titans fan in the world would sign up for that right now.
Yes.
Like nobody, if you just said that 2 years ago, like 17th, really? I don't know. 42 sacks, 43 sacks? That's not, need to get a little bit more than that. I think every Titans fan in the world would sign up for that right now, and then you take your chances with this offense.
Yeah, you're more than doubling your sacks. Now, middle of the league is fine. It's specific areas, you obviously third down defense.
That's got to get a lot better.
Sacks. Red zone defense is really, it's so much about success in this league. Red zone offense and defense. You got to be good there. If you're good there, let them load up the yards between the 20s. And then you got to be great still on offense in the red zone, which has been tremendous. And by the way, if you're talking about Todd Downing and optimism/pessimism for him, he has been the red zone guy for this offense, so that's something to keep in mind too.
Ron on the text line says, a lot of fans I talk to are worried about the backup quarterback position. If Tannehill goes down for 4 to 5 games this year, do you guys have faith that this team will still make the playoffs?
No. I mean, I get 4 games. I mean, I guess.
Are they 7-0 when he goes down?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but no. If he misses extended time, Titans are host. And again, go through the league and just the good teams with good starting quarterbacks, and find me all the teams that are feeling okay about number 2. There's a few.
Let's give the ball to Derrick Henry.
There are not many. Oh, look at Elijah's in there like,
that's
Saints,
right.
baby. We got 2 number 2 quarterbacks.
We got Jameis Winston as our number 2.
That's right.
We are A-okay. That's a former number 1 overall pick.
That's true.
You honestly think Jameis Winston's not going to be the starting quarterback?
Who knows?
It's not going to be Taysom freaking Hill as your starting
Who
quarterback.
knows?
Come on.
Who knows? He went 3-1 as a starter.
But who started last year when Drew Brees was out? Was it Taysom Hill or was it?
It was Taysom Hill.
Jameis Winston.
But Jameis is going to win the job. He actually can play quarterback.
Who started last year when Drew Brees was out? Was it Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston?
Do we want to do a pedicure bet right now? We can do a new one.
I'll take 2. But
You'll take 2 pedicures?
I might, yeah. two pedicures if Taysom Hill isn't the starter week 1. Even though I really don't even think I believe that. I just really want it to happen.
Fine, we'll bet a pedicure.
Okay.
1 pedicure. James, you in on this?
No.
Okay. There you go. Jameis Winston.
Robbie dodged a bullet once already. He's not going to play with fire again.
Jameis Winston will absolutely be the starting quarterback.
By the way, what's happening? I guess we're done with the pedicure with Heidi because they did not win.
I still think maybe we need to give Tim Corbin some time.
Well, how long are we giving him? We're going to ask him next season? Hey, by the way, let's take us back to the NC State game that was supposed to take place on that Saturday last year.
Maybe we can have him on like next week.
Okay.
And then you can bring it up.
Okay, we'll see what we could do on that front. Speaking of Tim Corbin, he is a college baseball coach. College athletics, it's a wild day today in the world. There are some doozies going on social media right now with this name, image, and likeness that begins today in the world of college sports. We'll react to that coming up next. Hit some of the highlights of it as well. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the wholesaling studios powered by RumbleOn.com. Here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to have David Ubben from The Athletic drop by at 8:30 to get into all things Tennessee Vols, some transfers taking place, and a new era in college athletics beginning today. We'll get David's thoughts on that. But speaking of that and the new era today, name, image, and likeness laws now in effect. And college athletes already taking advantage of this. We've got some sites auctioning off some appearances. Some companies have already come in and made some endorsement offers. We talked earlier in the show about Bo Nix, the quarterback at Auburn, now sponsored by Milo's Sweet Tea. So that's good. That's very on brand for the SEC. Nice job by Milo's.
Milo's, better at home. Is it better at home than on the road?
Somebody took a shot immediately at Bo Nix and said that Milo's is better at home than on the road. Much better. It's a tough one. Spencer Rattler, the quarterback at Oklahoma, came out with a statement yesterday. By the way, what an impressive logo for Spencer Rattler. Nice little rattlesnake in it, too, with an S. It was nice.
This is so cool. Everybody gets to come up with their own logo.
Everybody's got their own logo. Nothing's ever going to beat Graham Mertz at Wisconsin. But that's okay.
He's got 5 on it.
He's got 5 on it. That's for sure.
But Spencer Rattler, he's bringing him up, and I like this. He's talking about various things that he wants to do, and he said he basically is committing also a certain percentage of his earnings on all this to charity. You know, so there's a little bit of paying it forward with some of these athletes. I think he said in his statement, well, it's still more about like getting the degree and being great on the field, right? Yeah. He had quite an extensive statement. But man, it's wild. And then we've got like a retweet here on Dabo from May of 2019. Dabo Swinney says he may quit college football if players get paid. Bye, Dabo.
Yeah, is that going to happen?
Bye.
Are we expecting?
It's Dabo Day.
By the way, I mean, look, on that front, there have been some doozies. I mean, we talked about the college football playoff takes of people, involved, like Bill Hancock, talking about how, it would harm the bowl system.
Right. Now it's like, it's great.
It's great for the bowl system. Everything's great. I would imagine there's a lot of quotes you can go back and talk about from some of these coaches that they're going to have to do an immediate about face here. So I'm sure that Dabo will spin it as, well, they're not getting paid by the school, so.
Right. Oh, exactly. No, everybody's all in on this now. I mean, I guarantee you the next time Dabo has like a presser, he's going to talk about how amazing Clemson's name, image, likeness program is. I've been with this from the start, and we're going to maximize these profits. Oh, yes, Dabo.
And the Vols,
tell us all about
Vols wide receiver Grant Firking, according to David Ubben, has been by far the most active Tennessee athlete on the name, image, and likeness front in the first 60 minutes, and apparently
good because I didn't know his name before today.
Apparently, has paid his own teammate Velus Jones to advertise his company on Instagram. So there you go.
Okay, all right,
sharing the love a little bit with Velus Jones. This is wild. And Elijah, you found what was that site that you found?
I stumbled upon a website. Dreamfield.co, not .com. That might take you somewhere else. But Dreamfield.co is apparently a website, and this is what their mission statement here says. Supercharge your marketing efforts by booking local college sports superstars. Dreamfield makes it easy to create memorable events and outstanding marketing campaigns like autograph and meet and greet sessions, photo shoots and film sessions for marketing campaigns, and coaching and mentorship events. And they've already got prices on certain players to book, starting with Matt Corral, Ole Miss quarterback, for $10,000. You could book him, and then the next highest is Mackenzie Milton and De'Aaron King for $2,000.
I mean, is Joey Freshwater bumping up the price here on Matt Corral? Like, what? That's quite a. Hey, by the way, real quick,
SEC.
On a side note, I just want to again. Now, this is from a year ago, but I want to read this review of Jared's cameo. 5 stars. Quote, an amazing cameo, way underpriced at $15.99. In my opinion, Jared could get closer to $100 for his cameos. Let the big dog eat.
There you go.
So $15.99, now it's $15. So he's dropped the price $1.
There you go.
Joe! Oh, Joe!
That alone would be a great cameo.
It may be my favorite piece of audio that we've ever clipped.
What was that from? What was the context there?
There's no telling.
I don't want to know anymore. I did know at one point in time, completely forgot that I had it, found it in the last segment, and don't even want to know the context anymore.
I wonder if he'll remember.
Maybe so.
Joe!
So, what do you think of all this? Now that we're watching a new era of college athletics kind of unfold right in front of us. I mean, players all over the place are getting endorsements from different companies. I talked about Milo's getting into the mix as well. There are all sorts of companies reaching out to these college athletes at the moment. What do you think of all this as we're watching this unfold today, July 1st, the first day that this is allowed here in the NCAA in college athletics?
Well, it's a lot of fun right now. I think it's great. There's going to be some hilarious stuff out of this for sure. I also think that there's probably going to be some disappointed people at some point because, like, not everyone is going to get rich off this stuff, you know? Some will. Some will get – it's going to be just how it is in terms of just like a star system in sports, right? You know, the star quarterback for the great Power 5 team could have some serious – it was earlier, and we were talking off the air, like Zion, for example.
Yep.
You telling me in like that year at Duke, he's not getting the monster Nike deal already? Of course he is. Is that a problem? I don't know why it is. So I think we've gone past the point of people arguing against this. It's real now. It's real life. And I think what's going to happen is, one, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is just small potatoes, like this or that athlete goes back to their hometown and does some camps and makes a few $100. Great. Now, we don't have to worry about those kids. I mean, how many times have we had these stories about the kids like doing something on YouTube? And then also college athletes doing charity stuff at times that the NCAA had to, sorry. This
Can't have that.
Now it's just like, great. No one cares. Eventually, what this will be, for the most part, it's like Olympic athletes now. Because, again, if you're of a certain age, if you're as old as I am, you remember when people said this is going to ruin the Olympics in the 80s, when they were going to let them profit before they were done and retired as quote-unquote amateur athletes. Now we all just assume anybody who's training for the Olympics or an Olympic athlete, they've got endorsement deals, they've got money, they got training facilities, they're benefiting from it. No one cares. And a lot of this stuff is eventually not going to become some huge story every time someone gets some endorsement, right? But there will be the big ones, and there will be the pursuits of players, and that's also going to be interesting is how many times are we going to see people push the envelope when that quarterback everybody's got to have has a lot of different endorsement opportunities presented to him.
I'm interested to see how the market kind of corrects itself too, because I mean I think this dream field that Elijah's found here is a pretty good example. I mean,
yeah, who's paying $10K?
Who is paying Matt Corral $10K to make like a video for them? I mean, come on, what's going on here?
I mean, I guess it sounds like it's it says training, and there's more personal stuff that could be involved. I mean, like to me, he better.
How much time does Matt Corral have?
He better be driving your kids around and doing some dry cleaning. You know,
babysitting on the side too for $10,000.
Right.
I mean, that's a ton.
Teach your kid to throw a spiral.
But like if Matt Corral, if that's his price on Dreamfield, it's $10,000. What could like Kyle Trask have gotten last year, or Mac Jones? My goodness.
Yeah. Well, you know, something that's going to come up here too, because you can talk about, yesterday we were talking about like, Peyton Manning or Derek Barnett. Well, those guys went on to keep playing football and make millions off it. But how many athletes from 10, 20 years ago are looking at this now and saying, and maybe they're not in great financial shape, and looking at this saying, I would have made a killing in my 4 years in Madison, Wisconsin, or Eugene, Oregon, or Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
But
timing sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different than college coaches from a certain era. So, for example, I'll go to like Tom Izzo makes however many million. Judd Heathcote, his mentor.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when he retired, he was making like $100K or something. I mean, there's that too. I mean, you can be like John Wooden's salary, the greatest college basketball coach of all time, was probably like $40K when he retired. I mean, so it's the market. The market should dictate these things.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that asks, do you guys think that it could lower motivation for some players to reach their full potential once they start getting a ton of money? I don't know.
I mean,
people respond differently to money.
Could increase their motivation too.
Yeah.
right. Again, most of these, like the players who are going to get massive money are probably guys who are probably going to continue to get massive money. Not in every case, and those are the best cases to me. The devastating career-ending injury, or just someone who's great in college and just isn't quite a pro player who can make a ton off being great in college. There's a great example. Heisman winner, fantastic player. Didn't cup of coffee in the NFL, bounced around a little bit. I mean,
your boy Jason White.
There you go. Did not vote for him for the Heisman.
You did not.
Didn't even think about it. Didn't even consider it. But, yeah, there's a great example. Big-time numbers, national championship, Oklahoma, and that state, hero of the state. No one really thought he was an NFL quarterback all along. So is that guy, because he's getting paid at that time, is he going to stop working? Is he going to stop trying to win? I mean, he's more marketable because he's great. Is he not? Does he not make more money because he's great, because his team wins, because he wins a national championship, because he wins the Heisman? So why is motivation going to suffer from having more incentive to be great?
I do wonder. Now, one thing that I think is going to be interesting to see, just from a human being time management standpoint, how you handle stuff like this is, I mean, you are still going to school, and you do still have schoolwork, and that was already a challenge with just playing football or playing basketball or whatever it was. And now you toss in, hey, go do this photo shoot, or hey, go film this commercial for this restaurant. Like, it's going to require some pretty good time management skills from these kids, and they're not going to be able to do it all by themselves. Like, they're going to need help on this front as well.
That's true, but like some college athletes were like, hey, I got to go give plasma to get $40.
Well, look, I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm just saying, like, some point you need sleep too.
Yeah,
great.
Well. So let's talk about the Garantano thing that Ubben had. And we're gonna have David Ubben on the bottom of the hour. I mean, if it's $130K to send out 2 advertising tweets a week, there's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, if you're all hell bent on making every dollar you can make and going out there and doing public appearances, at some point you should also crack a book. I mean, you still have to be eligible. There are still scholarship limitations. I mean, the structure of college athletics is still in place, and that's why this is the only way you can do this, and it can't go beyond this.
We'll continue this conversation when we come back. Got a lot of your thoughts to get to as well, both on Twitter and on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll also ask the question, could name, image, and likeness laws help college athletics with more parity? Could it help the competitive balance? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Going to have David Ubben from The Athletic drop by in about 10 minutes. We'll get his thoughts on name, image, and likeness and how it's affecting the Tennessee Volunteers so far. All that coming up next with David Ubben. Right now, let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate texting in. With the state of the Vols football program right now, do you think Vols fans will pay for appearances? Joe, I believe the answer is yes.
Oh, my goodness, will they ever? Yeah, we were talking about this during the break.
Birthday party appearances?
Yeah, we're talking about this during the break. Like, actually, when you capitalize is when you're the QB who's the hotshot recruit who hasn't yet seen the field for people to see that you're actually flawed.
This would be a great opportunity for Caden Salter had he not just gotten himself kicked off the football team.
Exactly. The future of the program, Caden Salter, yes. Now will have to be the future of another program. Hey, before you get back to the text line, I do want to go Twitter, our friend Bob.
Yep.
And this is a very popular one. Do you think, this is Bob on Twitter, Bob Williams, do you think there will be any issues with team dynamics? Have some players on a team will be getting rich, other players on the same team will not? Do you think that's a factor? My answer to him is, first of all, does everyone on the pro teams make the same? No. Does the star quarterback on a college team get way more attention / have way more earning power ahead of him than the second-string left guard? And let's be honest, does that quarterback already get booster money while some on the team don't? I mean, I don't think this is a problem. Bob says, I think professional team dynamics and college team dynamics is kind of like apples and oranges. I agree it's not exactly the same, but there's already a hierarchy in various things that often lead to money. So if a reserve on a football team is not doing much with this and the star player is, all of a sudden that becomes some problem in the locker room?
Well, when it becomes a problem – which I don't think this is totally different from what it already is before this, is your quarterback, your third string, you think you ought to be playing, and you think it's a problem that, this guy's playing, he's not going very well, but he's making all kinds of money because he's the starting quarterback at the University of Tennessee. Why am I not the starting quarterback at the University of Tennessee? That's when it becomes a problem, but I think that was already a problem anyway, and that's why you see the transfers as common as they are in today's sports.
That's why the quarterback room is, okay, someone's going to emerge, and then the other guys, where are they going? And that may be more the case.
I've got a good example for you, though. Like if Tua, he comes in, he wins the national title, Jalen Hurts hangs around, and the next year he handles it really well, he's a backup quarterback, and he transfers the next year. If this is going on and he's able to transfer as a one-time transfer and you can get paid, look, I don't know Jalen Hurts. I find it difficult to believe he's hanging around for another year at Bama after that. He's probably gone at that point.
That may be, yeah. I mean, that was already a unique situation anyway, but, like a guy who's been so good, and then the guy comes in and wins the Natty. I mean, it's just the whole thing is very unique.
Sure.
But then Jalen, he still ends up at Oklahoma, and he probably does awfully well there too, right? So, yeah. But this ties into the parity question, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and, you brought up an interesting article as well from Yahoo talking about, just the name, image, likeness laws, everything going on right now in college sports, all kind of happening at once, and it changing the landscape of college sports as we know it right before our very eyes. Could this help with competitive balance? Could this be something where if you're a place like a Nebraska, who was a powerhouse in the 90s, they've fallen on hard times, they've tried to find a way to get back in the national recruiting picture, and let's be honest, it's hard to recruit people to Nebraska. It just is at this point. Could this be something that helps them? They don't have a professional team in Nebraska. There's a lot of people that love Nebraska, and this is just one example of many that you could throw out there. Do you think that name, image, likeness laws like this could end up helping the competitive balance in college sports? Could we see a shift from, the same 5-6 teams dominating college football to more of it being evenly spread out throughout the country? How would you go about answering that question?
I do think it will help. How much, I don't know. I mean, but I think Dan Wetzel, friend of the show, who wrote this piece for Yahoo, and Dan again, I would put Dan, Andy Staples, Mike Rosenberg among people who have been screaming about this for more than a decade, how this needs to happen.
Yep.
and have considered every angle of it. Dan's point, and I totally agree with this, it cannot get less. The parity cannot be worse. We just had a national semifinal, and this is from his piece, with Alabama Notre Dame. Alabama with its 22 five-star recruits. Notre Dame with its 2. 20 of the 28 spots of the playoffs have gone to Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State.
Yep.
Alabama has signed the number 1 class 7 of the past 10 years. Georgia, the other 3. There's a condensed handful plus of programs that get all the top talent. So it can't get worse. You still have scholarship limits. And I think the point he's making, and he actually talks to an economist here, which is interesting, but is that some kids are going to look at this and say, well, I could bide my time at Ohio State. And he actually brought up Michigan State as his example. You could go there, big booster base, billionaires who fund the program, facilities, guys go to the NFL. Also, they have top 25-ish, top 30 classes. You could go in there and start right away there. And you can go wherever you want with this. And there's great earning power. There's a huge fan base that would be excited to embrace you as a player. So I do think that there will be a positive effect. Is it going to all of a sudden give us real parity? We'll never have that. Is it going to diminish these top programs? I mean, I have my doubts about that. There's still going to be all these other factors, again, in picking a school. Do they develop me? I want to be an NFL player. If I'm an NFL player, I'm going to make millions. This is cool. Do a cameo for 5G and maybe a couple 100,000 or whatever, but I want to make millions as a pro. Where do I get developed? I want to win championships. I want the best facilities. All this stuff. Academics actually does come into play in these decisions. So it does, like
but that's going to get less and less with this. I do think that will be affected.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is academics less and less?
Because you're worried about maximizing your value if you're a player.
Why do you get a college degree?
Well, to maximize your value.
Yeah.
But if by and large, if you're a player like that who's coming in and you think you're going to be a good player at the college level, you can't tell me that going to a place where you can maximize your value more in terms of right now in the immediate spectrum right now, that's not going to play a factor.
Okay, but again, we're talking to me about a very small group of people. I mean, you can. So Emily Proud just tweeted like a joke, like, "Hey, I bet you people would have lined up to buy my 27 at Belmont." And I replied, "Well, you could have taught kids some soccer and made a camp." That's most of this. So you're telling me that your lifelong degree that you're trying to set a career on is going to be trumped by making $10K off camps and autographs? I mean, I think you're the very small, tiny upper crust of like NFL prospects or NBA prospects. Sure, degree is probably secondary for a lot of them. Although, look, I know Duke has won recruiting battles, and you can roll your eyes and that, but I think like a kid that I covered his recruitment heavily, Jabari Parker.
Yep.
They were like, we want the Duke degree, and he's going to play 1 year, go to the NBA, but he's eventually going to have the Duke degree. I mean, I just think most athletes are going to correctly look at this like there's limits to this. But the education, like Vanderbilt, they're still going to get kids in here who are excellent at both, and they want a Vanderbilt degree, I think.
When we come back, we will be joined by David Ubben from The Athletic. We'll look at the name, image, likeness laws and how they're affecting the Tennessee football program. We'll do that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And we are pleased to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend David Ubben from The Athletic. David, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Not much, thanks, guys. Happy NIL Day to those who celebrate.
Yes, thank you.
It's been interesting.
It's been very interesting so far. David, we haven't had you on in a few weeks and haven't really gotten your thoughts on all this. First off, I have to tell you, when I saw this morning that Bo Nix, Auburn's quarterback, is being sponsored by Milo's Sweet Tea, I mean, it's just awesome. It's right on brand for the SEC. But what do you think of all this? What do you think of the NIL laws? How much fun do you think this is going to be as they move forward with things officially getting underway today?
I mean, it's about 40 years too late, but better now than never, I guess. There's never been any good reason why players shouldn't be able to do this. Folks are just not gaining a lot of traction. I think people are realizing this is the sport writing a small, piece of so many things that are wrong with the economic structure of college sports, and it's nice that this is going to be the way it is moving forward.
So many facets of this, David. We were just talking about the competitive balance angle here. What do you believe long term? Is there any significant change in how it is? Is it for the better? I don't see personally how it can get worse. When you talk about the talent condensed, at the top with a handful of programs, but do you think this could potentially make a real impact and make it better?
Is it a cop-out to say I'm not sure?
I mean, I hear you.
I think ultimately, I think there are some programs who might see some upward mobility. I pointed to SMU. I pointed to Nebraska, places that have a lot of kind of booster cash floating around. SMU, because of just the money aspect of that school, there's a handful of people who really want to win, and if they can get behind that, I think it's possible. Dallas would be a big draw. And Nebraska, Tennessee is somewhat in the same boat where you just have a giant state where people are obsessed with the program. I mean, we saw yesterday Runza, if you're not familiar with Runza, I don't know if I can really explain that food over the radio, but
I don't know it. It's like Culver's?
No, it is not like it is a unique thing all its own. Imagine if it's so it's like a Polish or German, but it's like a bun and it's filled with like ground beef and cabbage and some spices.
Wow.
That's like the basic. Anyway, it's a giant chain in Nebraska. They also serve chili and cinnamon rolls for the together, I should say, for the Midwestern folk, if you were unaware. Anyway, not to turn this into a food appearance, but basically they are offering, any Nebraska player a chance to sponsor them and promote their rewards program and all that stuff. I mean, that sort of speaks to what we're talking about here in Nebraska. I don't think they're going to be the only company that offers a similar deal that, hey, if you come here, we'll kick in something for you. And, it's an interesting situation overall. But I think, this is – I don't think it's going to be significant to the competitive balance of the sport. But I think there are a few schools who might see some bumps, if that makes sense.
David Ubben from The Athletic on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, David, how in the early going of this is this affecting Tennessee football? What have we seen on that front with the NIL laws? And how do you think Josh Heupel and his staff are going to go about handling what every coaching staff is going to have to try to figure out, and that is the changing landscape now in college sports and in college football as well with the NIL laws coming into effect?
Yeah, I mean, from Tennessee and from really any program's perspective, all you can really do is sort of education and telling players, hey, here's how to think about this. Think about the brands you're aligning with if you're doing a deal or something like that. Keep your time, in mind. How much time do you want to spend with this? Well, we've already seen a handful. Yoke Gaming is one that it's kind of like the Cameo, I guess, of video games that you can pay to have a play video games with an athlete. They said they're going to be a few thousand people on that platform today. We saw Theo Jackson's on there, Velus Jones is on there, all that stuff. Grant Firking, who I wrote about a couple years ago, who owns a large company, he already has his own sort of company to help broker some of these deals that they launched last night. He had a couple deals of his own with a home loan company and a Mexican restaurant. And, of course, on top of that, paying Velus Jones to advertise his own company. So we've seen a lot of interesting deals. Parker Ball, he's got about 5,000 Twitter followers. He's going to be a brand ambassador for a newsletter. So a lot of little things in the last 12 hours. So it's been pretty interesting.
And seems like, and you've written a lot about this going back, David, like Tennessee has been pretty proactive, would you say they're more ahead of the curve or more forward thinking on this than a lot of other places? I know everyone now is sending out there from the same people who are like, this is going to ruin college sports. Now we have the best name, image, likeness program in college athletics, but it does seem like Tennessee was thinking a lot about this and putting some thought into it way early. Am I right with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of programs were. I mean, like I said, there's only so much you can do because schools are not broker deals. Schools are not allowed to help guys find deals. But you can educate and you can help, guys get, a situation or get in a good situation. You can offer some advice, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, Tennessee, they're unique in that the program that they have for the Haslam School of Business, that program allows them to get some class credit for it, which is, different than a lot of places. And that's the one thing that I think separates them at this point.
David, on the field, especially defensively, what's this team going to look like? You have Darrell Middleton entering the transfer portal yesterday, the latest Tennessee player to enter the transfer portal. Lots of concerns from Vols fans about the depth on defense. What do you see when you look at what this defense forecasts to be under the first year of Josh Heupel coming into this season?
Well, they're going to look a lot different. I think that's the biggest thing. It's possible you could still see some player departures. Possibly you could still see some late additions. I mean, there's still a lot of movement that can still happen. There's a lot of stuff. This team is going to be interesting, and I think, we've been writing about the transfer portal and the numbers and all that stuff, all for over a year, all that stuff. And I think, when you look at where Tennessee is at on that transfer portal, I mean, the idea that you lost 27, I think is the total number now, and granted, like 8 of those or so are walk-ons, but still, if you look at our transfer portal top 100, I think there's 7 or 8 Vols that are in there, and I think one that is former Vols, and there's one in Joe Milton that's coming to Tennessee. So you're up against it, and I think that's going to be the tale of this team is just how different it is in personnel and scheme. This team and last year's team are going to be not really recognizable when you compare them.
On the recruiting front, David, obviously it hasn't gone well in the state. I can't say I'm surprised. I can't say that there are many coaches who could have come into this exact situation and just torn it up out there. But are there concerns beyond just that with Heupel and recruiting?
Well, I mean, I've used the term understandably underwhelming at this point because they are striking out with the in-state kids, which is a problem. And they're not in on a lot of big guys. It's a lot of 3 stars, a few 4 stars, the in-state guys. Isaiah Horton, they're in there. Cam Miller, they're well positioned to get him. But it's tough, and you're never going to know the answer to that question right now because you're dealing with NCAA stuff, which is really that's been a major talking point in this recruiting cycle. And Tennessee doesn't have any good answers for it. We reported at The Athletic. They're being negative recruited on that, and you can't blame schools for doing it. But it's frustrating from Tennessee's perspective because, they can't really combat that. And so it has not been very good. There's a lot of reasons for that, but the question is, when those things are gone, what does that look like? And considering that one of the criticisms of the staff coming in was, the recruiting at UCF was not setting the world on fire. That's the thing. How concerned should you be? There's not a good answer for that. It's sort of a Rorschach test for how optimistic or pessimistic are you for a number of other Tennessee situations. So it has not been great. There's a lot of reasons for that, and how much of that is, this staff being underwhelming in recruiting or them dealing with a lot of the outside factors that they can't change. You just don't know where to separate, how to divvy out the pie chart of that responsibility.
All right, actually, I do want this to be partially a food appearance for you. And
goodness.
Forgive me if I've forgotten this, but I know that you're aligned with me on banana pudding being a subpar, below-average dessert.
God.
So the Bo Nix
That's an
thing,
understatement.
yeah.
We're going to go down this road again.
But what about the Bo Nix thing? I also brought again. These are the only two things about Southern cuisine that I'm not in love with, which is banana pudding and sweet tea. Where do you come down on sweet tea?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of diabetes, so I don't drink it that often. Listen, I'm okay with tea in general. What I will do is I will get like 3/4 of a cup, or when I'm making it, I'll get 3/4 of unsweet, and then maybe a dash of sweet there on the edge. Not a huge fan of the pure sweet.
Is that
tea.
okay? Are you okay with that, Robbie?
I'm more okay with that than I am you just totally poo-pooing sweet tea the whole show, yeah.
I like a touch of this, but the pure sweet tea, I'm not sure I've ever drank a full cup. I can't handle that much sugar. I don't know how people drink that. My wife's into it. I married into a Tennessee family. We'll go to family functions. There'll be 2 pitchers out. The sweet tea will be gone in 5 minutes, and the unsweet, long after the meal is done.
That's all for you.
Still half full. I will be nursing that. So it is. I'm not into it. I don't get it, and it's. I don't know how you drink that with a meal, or I really don't know. It's not for me.
We are aligned again.
I am so worried about you two. Banana pudding and sweet tea just totally off the table for David Ubben and Joe Rexrode. David, appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, my man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. David Ubben from The Athletic, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Christopher on Twitter pointing out those are fighting words, Joe.
I'm sorry. It really is just like, I mean, some things are preference and all that, but I just think it's a crazy amount of sugar.
Do you two have these conversations before, like David's scheduled to come on the show and be like, all right, what do you think will tick Robbie off the most with our food takes?
No,
because I will tell you,
don't.
banana pudding and sweet tea are near the top of the list.
No, we really don't.
That's comfort food. So if you're just never comfortable, we know why.
I guess that's why.
So that's the only. So desserts. Rank me your top 5 desserts that you got to have right now. Go ahead. Give me your top 5 desserts right now. Have to have them.
See, banana pudding's in that top 5.
Where?
Oh man, see, like choosing which one of your kids
you know
do you
what?
like more.
If you want to be honest with me,
that.
no. If you want to be honest with me, you can name 10 right now you like more than banana pudding.
Not true.
There's no. I can't name 10 that I like more than
yes,
banana
you
pudding.
can.
That's absurd. 10 more than banana
Do
pudding.
you see what I've been dealing with here?
Oh my god!
This conversation with him and Ubben goes back like a calendar year at this point. They've been talking about this crap.
What the hell goes on here?
It's unbelievable.
When I'm not around.
It's average.
We'll continue the conversation on college athletics when we come back. NIL laws taking effect. We got a lot of your thoughts to get to as well. We'll do all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Join 102.5 The Game this Saturday from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. for the Nashville SC pre-match party at the Hard Rock Cafe downtown. Party before the match on Broadway and get some game swag, plus register to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Then head on over to Nissan Stadium for the 7 o'clock match. Get your tickets now for Nashville SC at NashvilleSC.com and tune into the match on ESPN 94.9. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Thanks to David Ubben from The Athletic for joining us in the last segment, despite his atrocious food takes that he and Joe Rexrode continue to espouse together here on the show.
All right, real quick, before you go to that, I'm going to name you the desserts just off the top of my head that are better than banana whatever crap. Now, listen. This is just also the family. So, in other words, one is just the ice cream family. Now, there's a bunch of different things within that, which like a turtle sundae, a shake, a malt, a banana split. But I'll just say ice cream is one, okay?
Okay.
I'll do the cookie family as one, a great cookie. I'll do a brownie family, and there's a million things you do with them as one. There's three, but really that represents like 30 desserts.
Okay.
Also, apple pie, key lime pie, cherry pie, blueberry pie, chocolate cream pie, Boston cream pie, German chocolate cake, yellow cake with chocolate frosting, carrot cake,
this is
and
all
tiramisu.
off the top of your head?
Yes. Okay. In the break, those things are all, I would absolutely sign up way before banana mush whatever for dessert.
Noted.
Still wrong. Yeah, I'm glad you got that off your chest, but you're still wrong.
Got a texture on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com that says, I've been to Nebraska, and Ubben is right about Runza. You have to have it if you ever find yourself in that state.
It sounds good.
Apparently, this is a big deal.
It sounds pretty good. Yeah, a few months ago, as my buddy tweeted at me today, they did they do those maps like most popular fast food in various states, and a lot of times it's just like, what? But it was Runza for Nebraska, and I tweeted at the time, like, what is this?
Yeah.
It actually sounds kind of good.
At TitansFreak20 on Twitter says pecan pie, banana pudding at number 2, chocolate cake with peanut butter icing, ice cream cake, pumpkin roll at Thanksgiving time only. But banana pudding at number 2 on her list.
Pecan pie, boom, there's another one. Pumpkin pie, pumpkin roll, boom, there's another one. Oh, on and on and on. Thank you.
You just ignored that banana pudding is number 2 on that list? Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay.
Number 2?
Some true selective
said it 3
hearing
times.
there
Didn't hear it.
from Joe.
Yeah. All right.
It's like the Whistler.
Cool.
I turn on the Vanderbilt baseball game, I don't hear the Whistler.
So back to this NIL conversation. There's an interesting question from Josh in Murfreesboro on the text line. What does this do to schools getting deals with Nike and Adidas to wear their stuff? Will we see kids at MTSU wearing Under Armour? And that's an interesting part of this. Like, you've got obviously apparel deals between these college teams and college programs and the schools themselves and the companies themselves. How much of a restriction is that going to be? Like, if, Nike wants to sign, I don't know, some random athlete and they're an Adidas school, how do you go about handling that?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. It's a good question because obviously now college athletes, wherever they're going to school, they're wearing whatever the apparel deal the school has, right? Yep. Now, we do see this.
Could that factor into recruiting?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it does. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, this goes way back, and Sonny Vaccaro, who is one of the champions of all this stuff, was the guy who famously signed Jordan to Nike and really started the process of, you better find these kids when they're 14 and then get them on a Nike AAU team and then get them to a Nike college. And then if they do happen to become an NBA star, boom, you got yourself a client. You got yourself a pitchman for Nike. So already the recruiting, the funnel of money is very much a lot of kids who are Nike gets to them. They end up at a Nike school or they end up at Adidas school. But I would think that, it's like in the pro ranks, you have teams have apparel deals for their merchandise, and then the pro athletes on those teams wear whatever they have if they have their own apparel deals. So I would think that there would be that freedom to do your own thing. Like Zion Williamson at a Nike school probably gets a $20 million Nike deal in that year with Duke. But I guess Adidas could have come in and said, hey, how about 25? What's Duke going to do? It's a good question. That'll be interesting.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Weston from Columbia texting in. Do you think this will give a loophole to coaches to, quote, legally pay players to come play at their school? Also, do you think this will widen or shrink the competitiveness gap between the top schools and the lower level schools?
Yeah. Okay, so that's because, again, if we're talking competitive balance, we've been talking about that. It can't get worse. Now, if you're talking group of 5, power 5, I don't know. That's interesting. Again, I think that there are places where you can sell your situation. I look at Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
Brent Stockstill could have pitched every freaking product in Murfreesboro 3 years ago.
Sure.
I mean, like everybody in Murfreesboro.
Easily.
He could have done well.
Giddy Potts.
So I've thought about this too in terms of smaller schools, big markets. And this is where it becomes a problem because I was like, what about like Boston College? Or what about Temple? But the problem with those places is that they're the pro sports are so dominant. And that's the difference between whereas Nebraska, there's no pro sports.
Right.
So
Alabama.
I kind of agree with I kind of agree with Ubben, but again, Alabama already has all the 5s.
Right.
They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna get more kids saying, "I want to be a 4th stringer there and never play," because it's not gonna do anything for you. I mean, I can see someone saying, "You know what? Texas A&M, I could start there as a sophomore," and they've got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I think some competitive balance is probably helped by this, but I think Ubben's right. Like, there are some individual situations that could be altered significantly. I don't think the landscape is going to be that different. I don't think this is all going to be as big a deal once all the frenzy dies down as some people think. And as far as the coach with the loophole and the paying the players, yes, people are going to push the envelope on this, and yes, people push the envelope already, and yes, there's an underground economy already in college athletics.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben texting in. It's perfect timing for this, in my opinion. The Vols' deep pockets will drag us out of this free fall way faster than it normally would have taken.
Oh, here we go.
Come on.
I like it. I like the optimism. I don't know if I agree. But I will say, like, Tennessee is a place where
a lot of Pilot Flying J endorsements on their way.
Right.
For Tennessee.
Sure. I mean, there's places that have a lot of money and that are the only game in town. Those are primo places for this to for athletes to do well there, and for athletes to look at that place and say, I could do well there. And of course, you can also look at Tennessee right now and say, I can start there. Now, as many people have pointed out, if you have too many kids come into your place because they know they can start there, they're probably not. You want the kids who are like, I'll start anywhere, but I'll choose this place. Right? But I think Tennessee could benefit.
Christopher on Periscope asks, so does a city like Nashville with Vandy have a competitive edge over Knoxville in Tennessee? I would say no, because I would say there's more things here in Nashville that distract from the college athletes. Like, you'll have your examples of, Rocker or Leiter, or, if it was Jay Cutler playing here.
Right. Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah, Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, you'll have your players that have their opportunity to make a pretty good amount of money here. There's also so much more to do here in Nashville with the Predators and the Titans and everything going on here that maybe the market's saturated a little bit. In Knoxville, I mean, it's the Tennessee Vols and that's it.
Yes.
Like, you have people that care about the Titans, but it's the Tennessee Vols, and that's pretty much what it is in Knoxville.
Exactly. So but I also think there's still a good opportunity for Vanderbilt. But it's all tied to everything. It's tied to, can you get the program going? Can you get the football and the basketball programs going to where you're winning, to where more people are paying attention, more people are going to the games, more people care? I think then there's opportunity because, again, it's a bigger city. And if you're I do like Rocker and Leiter, those guys would have been able to benefit. Not that they need to, and they're going to be just fine.
They'll be fine.
But I think it's still like there's still all the other parts of a college athletics program that matters too. Like if Tennessee turns it around and is winning, and you have the entirety of Vol Nation all wrapped up again in it, well, then everything else just went up too. And if they're struggling and going 6-6 and they have a postseason bowl ban, this is muted to some extent. So I think there's opportunity for Vanderbilt. Yeah, but if you're comparing the two, one, like you said, it's the only game in town there. It's not here. But also, it's a massive fan base and a much smaller fan base for Tennessee versus Vanderbilt.
Dylan on the text line, how dare you talk about banana pudding like that, Joe? After all the good things you've done, you just blew it and you made the list for life.
The list for life?
I agree, Dylan.
Look,
well
man,
done.
I'll eat some banana pudding, okay? You put it in front of me, I'll eat it.
Maybe instead of a pedicure, all bets should be banana pudding based.
Agreed.
I mean, it doesn't make me
Yes.
sick. But you keep telling me you got some amazing banana pudding. I mean, I've tried several versions of it. Maybe I've just somehow missed out on the amazing banana pudding that's out there. But I've ordered it at places that supposedly have great banana pudding.
Ordering it is your first mistake.
Yeah,
You gotta make it.
it's
Gotta
got to be
make it?
homemade.
Yeah.
I bet Robby makes some mean banana
All right,
pudding.
you know what?
He just looks like he does.
Fine, I'll make some banana pudding.
You don't know how. We'll teach you.
Your heart won't be in it.
We'll teach you. I will make this happen.
Caroline and I
promise.
like to make desserts.
I'm sure you do. I'll make this happen.
Not
for
named
you.
banana pudding.
I promise. We'll continue this conversation when we come back. Got more of your thoughts to get to on name, image, and likeness laws going in effect today for college sports. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Eric and Lyles on the text line. Banana pudding has to be homemade, no Jell-O. Fresh, still warm. Before the vanilla wafers get soggy and bananas turn black, then it's awesome. I could not have described it better myself. Eric is exactly right. That's how banana pudding is supposed to be consumed.
So basically, this has to be like splitting an atom to get it to be good.
No, it's not that hard.
Well, I'm waiting.
All right.
I mean, there are restaurants. So these restaurants that supposedly specialize in banana pudding, they don't do it right?
No, they don't. Homemade.
Okay.
It's very necessary
Homemade
to be a part of this.
only. All right.
Greg on the text line. If Joe makes banana pudding like he makes mac and cheese, I'll pass.
I make it exactly the right way. Darn it.
By the way, I meant to get to this earlier. The piece of audio we played of Jared screaming Joe's name, Caleb asked, was that Joe giving Jared a foot rub? I'm going to hope the answer to that question is no.
Or a thigh squeeze like they do at
Steve
Clippers
yeah.
playoff
Apparently
games.
that's what you do at Clippers game. Maybe
There's
so.
an
Well done,
out-of-context squeal.
Joe! Oh, Joe! Oh.
I got to know what that is. I got to know, like, what's caused that.
I think it might have been that video of him doing the pull-ups at Belmont, and you didn't get all of it.
That's what it was.
You only got, like, the tail end of it. And
You're right.
He was ready to
just,
show off his physical prowess doing some pull-ups.
He
just killed these pull-ups, and you ruined it for him.
He was so excited about those pull-ups. I mean, like, Belmont is showing off its new facility.
Yeah.
There's all these people around. There's security people in the weight room, and he is, like, desperate to, like, do some pull-ups in front of everyone.
I'm sure that went well. We've had multiple people on the text line, and Chris is the latest to suggest this, and I think he's right. The Banana Pudding Festival, October the 2nd and 3rd in Centerville, Tennessee. Sounds like a morning show field trip.
Have you been there? Have you
I've
been
not.
to it?
I've wanted to go. So this could be a perfect opportunity. The Banana Pudding Festival, Centerville, Tennessee.
God.
Will you commit now to going?
It sounds like, like a vacuuming convention or
It's
something.
October the
awful.
2nd and 3rd, which is a weekend in the fall where football's going on, but you can suck it up for a weekend and get out there for at least one day.
Yeah, I'll skip the Titans game to stuff my face with mediocre desserts.
I don't know if I've ever wanted to fight you more than I do this second. Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Heidi from Dixon texting in. My friend's dad is a Memphis alumni. Yesterday he pledged $40,000 to the school to recruit a top 25 point guard in his senior year. He wants the kid to get half if he commits. This is great for sports.
By my understanding, that would be not allowed.
I don't think that's
That's
allowed.
still illegal, I think.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's allowed.
Now, if you want to go ahead and slide that $20K underneath, some bogus like local
Or it could be real.
restaurant, or some like real local like restaurant.
Well, that's what's
endorsement.
going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, hey, and this is going to happen in college football, college basketball of, hey, so-and-so restaurant, here's some money. If you go endorse this kid to come here, and if he comes here and you'll endorse him, that's going to be a part of the recruiting package. It just will be.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Two thumbs up.
I think it's going to happen. That's going to turn into, I do think sometimes with certain players, maybe it turns into a bidding war.
Yeah. They happen now. I want to see them.
Do you think it makes it even more of a bidding war when it's out in public like that?
Well, see, that's a really interesting question. I actually think in some cases, see, the thing is, some of the people who have put a lot of money into some of these programs, acquiring players, I don't know that they necessarily want that business out there like that. I mean, for one thing, like you look like an idiot if you just someone, there's some $300,000 endorsement for the incoming recruit who's a bust. Like your return on investment, and this happens a lot in college football.
Yeah.
A lot of times you are wrong, especially in football. Now, basketball, you kind of know who's really good when they come in. Football, there's a lot of development that needs to happen for a lot.
There's also, and I wanted to get to this as it relates to the Vols as well. To me, there's a really interesting angle of this discussion now because we heard David Ubben talk about it, and that is, Tennessee is being pretty heavily negatively recruited because of the NCAA issues that could be forthcoming, and we'll see what happens on that and whether or not they have to, self-impose a postseason ban this year. But a large reason why they're under investigation is recruiting violations. And now everything that they're under investigation for is now about to become right out there in the open for the most part. I'm interested, if you're the NCAA, does that factor into your punishment? With teams that you're investigating with violations over the past couple of years, and you're still going through all that? Now that everything that they've done is now okay, does that change the way that these rulings come out with the NCAA?
Well, see, but if for example you're using, just throwing out random examples, a coach's credit card to do something that's still not covered under this.
Sure.
But I hear what you're saying. All of it is it seems so silly now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's
I still believe Tennessee is going to be in trouble in some regard. They're probably going to have a postseason ban this year, which I know, if you're a Tennessee fan, you say, okay, you can't go to the whatever bowl when they go 6-6.
And not sure you're even going to get
Not
six.
sure you're going to get to 6.
Yeah.
So I realize it's not the world's biggest deal, but I do think there will probably come a time where Tennessee's we're self-imposing a postseason ban this year because of the NCAA trouble we're in. By the way, our quarterback over there just signed a $60,000 deal to go endorse a car company. It's
ridiculous, right? No, I agree, and that's why to me, and I like how it's gone because the NCAA was so incompetent that they didn't have anything ready, so they finally just said, okay, whatever works in each state, so that everybody can do it in the state. And it's this interim rule that's actually pretty open. To me, that's why it's got to be just open. And then you deregulate, and that whole stupid rule book is out the window. Seriously, they actually used to, and this is 10 years ago, you couldn't get the cream cheese on the bagel.
Yeah.
It's just comical.
Ridiculous.
So, and that's the extreme example, but all of it, just inducements, whatever. Again, once we embrace the idea that anyone who's able to anyone who is talented enough and has worked hard enough to be at this level on a massive industry, billions of dollars, television money, all that stuff, they can get a little piece of it. I don't see why we care about any of that stuff. I think you still have the people that in the NCAA just trying to hold on. But if they embrace openness, then yes, you're right. That stuff just goes out the window. Who cares?
I have a early contender for the name, image, and likeness tweet of the day. This is coming from Matthew Coughlin, who apparently plays for Michigan State football. Number 4 for Michigan State football.
Okay.
And the tweet is this. Quote, "This is a paid tweet to tell you to listen to the Locked On Spartans podcast. I've never listened to it, but I'm sure it's not terrible." It's going to be amazing.
Well, this is a buddy of mine does that podcast, and he actually tweeted yesterday, okay, what Michigan State athlete is going to promote my Locked On Spartans podcast for $100? So there you go. That was about worth $100. You know what? Awesome. To make a joke on Twitter, you just made $100. Good job. Who cares?
That's awesome.
This is not going to – that's the thing.
I've never listened to it, but I'm sure it's not terrible.
That's fantastic. In fact, you got to pay him more. You got to pay him $200 for
Maybe
that.
so. It's pretty good. We're going to see all sorts of stuff like that. And we've had a couple people ask us about, time management part of this, and David Ubben brought that up as well. That's going to have to be something, if you're Josh Heupel or any coach around the country, you're going to have to harp on that because you do still have to, have time to play football.
Sorry, Coach. I got a photo.
Some film.
Got a photo shoot, Coach. I have to tell you.
So still have to do that part of it as well. But this is an interesting time in the world of college sports as well. We'll continue this conversation when we come back. Got more of your thoughts to get to on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Elijah Campbell here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing the NIL laws going into effect today and how that's going to affect the college sports landscape as we know it. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll get back into a very disappointing night for Vanderbilt when we come back at 9:30 coming up to close out the show. Talked about that to begin the show. A tough one for Vanderbilt last night. We'll get back into that coming up here in just a few minutes. As far as the NIL discussion is concerned, we talked about how this could affect the local teams with Vanderbilt and Tennessee. You mentioned that you think Vanderbilt will have opportunities to use this to their advantage as well. What do you mean by that? What do you think the opportunities could look like for Vanderbilt to use this to their advantage with a new regime coming in with Clark Lee and the football staff kind of embracing that modern way of thinking and trying to welcome this with open arms? What do you think with a place like Vanderbilt that's a private institution, how can they use this to their advantage, do you think?
Well, I think just like any place, first of all, I think the selling point for Vanderbilt is already what the selling point was. Come to Nashville. I mean, what have they talked about? The degree, the city, the conference. Great place to live. Best conference for athletics in the country. And also, a Vanderbilt degree. I mean, look, other than, again, the very, very, very upper crust of athletes who are so marketable that they're going to get rich, a degree from Vanderbilt probably has a lot more earning power for you than whatever, camps and autographs and endorsements you're going to get as a typical college athlete. So
I don't know, man. Matt Corral, $10,000 on the site.
Unless you're Matt Corral, just raking in 10 G's left and right.
Do we think most people even know who Matt Corral is? He's quarterback at Ole Miss.
That'd be a good poll actually to put out there. But no, I mean I think Vanderbilt. I think, like Ubben said, there's limits to what the school. I mean they can help you manage it and they can help educate you, and they can sort of be on the front end of that. But a lot of this is just the schools now making it look like they do a lot. They don't have that much to do with it, right? I mean, but you want to embrace it, and you want to say you embrace it because everything still in college athletics, when you want to succeed, is about recruiting and about getting talent into your program.
Heidi from Dixon asks on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, will it be legal to put stipulations in the money contracts that will restrict players from transferring? Might kill two birds with one stone, telling them that they only get their money if they don't leave.
I mean, again, the schools aren't paying them, so. And they won't.
But I guess she's talking about, if you're a
the
business.
outside business.
But, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. You'll get the other half of this after you complete your eligibility at my favorite school.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, hey, there are going to be some interesting interpretations and envelope pushing and loophole.
Well, and to that point, like the
here.
NCAA right now has basically said, even in states that don't even have these laws passed right now, yeah, you know what, just do whatever you want.
Well, and so those states, some of the six, they're actually a little bit more restrictive than here's the interim, just do what you can do. So yeah, but again, I hope it trends toward open, because if in the end the NCAA is still chasing people down because this name, image, likeness thing crosses a line versus this one, and so we have this big enforcement staff, and we're going to have still investigations and big penalties for all that, then it's like, I mean, what have you really done? It's just a shell game, and you just continue to the ridiculousness of the entire NCAA enforcement structure is still in place. I want it to be blown up. Let's put these resources toward things that are actually beneficial and actually matter.
Frank on the text line, does the new NIL rules mean that we can be done with the NCAA as an organization?
Well, again, the NCAA is the schools. So it's a member organization. So they say, hey, let's put on tournaments together. Let's have a board of directors. Let's have some rules. Let's have rules like you must offer 16 sports. You can only have 85 scholarships. I mean, No, it's not going to cease to exist. The schools still need to have some sort of framework for what they're doing, right?
You would think so.
So, again, people look at the NCAA like it's a separate thing that independently dictates what the schools are doing. It is the schools. They supply from the schools people who work at headquarters. Is it going to have less power? Absolutely. And, again, enforcement, that's where I look at and say, what a waste of time. We've had FBI wiretaps, and still those coaches are coaching. So do away with it.
I'm interested to see how coaches handle this. We talked to David Ubbin about Josh Heupel, and look, I think David's right. There's only really so much you can do. I mean, you've just got to urge your players, to be mindful of their time, be mindful of the businesses that they're partnering with in this discussion, be mindful of, stretching yourself a little bit too thin with all the different things that you've got to worry about. But outside of that, there's not really much that coaches are going to be able to do here. I mean, Tennessee, they've tweeted about it this morning. They put a video out there from their athletic account saying, NIL day has come. We've been preparing for this for a long time, and they're going to try to use this to their advantage as much as they possibly can, just like every other university out there. But this is an interesting time to be a college head coach. We talked to Tony Vitello when he was on about it as well. He loves it, thought that maybe this should be the case for a long time here. So I'm interested to see how coaches go about handling this, especially old Nick Saban down in Alabama. I'm interested to hear his thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what he says about it too, and he'll say the right things. I mean, I can't wait to hear Dabo's first presser after saying he's going to leave college sports if players get any money. It's just, I think the coaches and ADs who embrace this and say let's use this to our advantage are going to benefit, and people who worry about this, I mean, look, you already have young people between 18 and 22. You're hoping they spend their time at the library and the weight room and not the bar, right? I mean, it's already a time of life when, I mean, it basically, like, there's some choices that young people have to make, and sometimes they don't make the right ones. And if you give them a lot of money, well, that can make it tougher. But at the same time, there's no honest reason that they shouldn't be able to make it.
Matt and Gallatin asking about the shoe deals, and haven't heard if players could seek their own shoe deal and go against the sponsorship that their institution has. A similar question from our friend Michelle as well. Somebody brought that up earlier. It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think basketball, that's going to be really interesting. My guess would be, number one, it's going to play a large part in the recruiting part of this of, if you're a Nike school and you land a big-time recruit, my guess would be the Nike would want to sponsor that athlete as well. So that's probably how it's going to end up most of the time. Football, though, is interesting. Like, if you're, I don't know, Mac Jones last year, Under Armour approaches you wanting to sponsor you to wear their stuff. Can you do that and then go out there? What does Alabama wear? Nike? I don't even know. Can you go out there and just throw Nike together?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, to me, it's like, okay, well, then I'll use the one-time transfer rule to go to an Under Armour school. I mean, but basketball, you're right. It's a lot more. I mean, in football, I just feel like basketball, fewer people. I mean, it's more like what you're wearing is more visible. Yeah, so that will be interesting. I'm very interested. That's a good story for someone to do. I haven't seen that yet, but that's going to be, and certainly, these schools have thought about this. That's a good one. And I don't know. There's a lot that's going to come out that we haven't thought of. There's going to be
all these recruiting battles publicly now that were private.
That's what I hope.
Of Nike and Adidas. Like if you're an Adidas school or, an Under Armour school, like Maryland against Duke.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. But
bidding wars for recruits.
That's what AAU is now, though. It really is. That's what it's been for a long time. Yeah. So now we get to see more of it. I hope. I mean, that's what it should be.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a text that says, remember when Jordan and the Dream Team covered up the Reebok with the flag?
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so I got to go to my personal text line. Dane from Nolensville says, what if a rival team secretly books the opposing team's quarterback to browbeat him? Like if Mississippi State hired the Ole Miss quarterback to show up at a function and then browbeat him.
Hey, the whole time.
Did I get paid? Hey, great. I got some Ole Miss money.
I mean,
That's
there's some
great.
people
Yeah,
that would love that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could put him in a dunk tank.
Matt Corral would embrace it.
Matt Corral.
$10,000.
Matt Corral will go in the Mississippi State dunk tank. And as long as he gets his 10 Gs, he's cool.
He doesn't care.
The world's most expensive dunk tank.
Yeah.
That's a lot. How much would you pay to have Jared in a dunk tank?
So as like these coaches see all these players making all this money from like Cameo and stuff like that, what coach do you think is most likely to hop on one of these? Lane Kiffin for sure, right? It's got to be Lane Kiffin.
There's a lot of coaches that do Cameo already.
I know, but like Lane Kiffin making appearances, signing autographs now, just being out there with his players. Like, yeah, Matt, you go sign over there. I'll sign over here. We'll make money together.
Like show up with them.
Yeah, in tandem.
Yeah, maybe Mike Leach. Maybe both Mississippi guys.
Maybe.
Just show him his little pirate outfit.
Could be something, that's for sure.
Was Mike Leach there last night? Where the heck was he?
I didn't see him.
Banging his cowbell.
He's out in like, the same island Tom Hanks was on a Castaway doing something out there. That's the second day in a row Castaway has been brought up here on the show.
Yeah, I was going to say hanging out with Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, boy. ESPN 94.9 is the official English radio home of the Nashville Soccer Club. Listen in Saturday night as Nashville SC takes on Philadelphia at Nissan Stadium. Pregame starts at 6:45, and the match begins at 7 o'clock. When we come back, we will get back into Vanderbilt. Their season ending last night with a thud against Mississippi State. We'll react to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Got a texter that says Castaway has been on TV for the few days in a row now. I take it I'm not the only one who watched it. Tell Joe to make some banana pudding and make a day of it. How's that day sound? Hanging out, watching some Castaway, eating some banana pudding. That sounds like a pretty good day to me.
I like Castaway. I haven't seen that in a while. I don't see that. That's not like Shawshank to me, which is like always on TV.
Right.
But I like
Castaway's on a fair amount. But yeah.
But no, I'm going to make banana pudding, actually, after this. Because you claim that none of these restaurants have any clue what they're doing. So I'm going to make it the freshest possible banana pudding, the best possible recipe, with the best possible ingredients.
Let's go to the Banana Pudding Festival in October.
If it wasn't on a Saturday and Sunday in football season, then I might think about that. Where is that?
Centerville, Tennessee.
Okay.
It's a little bit west of here.
How much is a little bit?
A smidge.
Yeah, a smidge.
Yeah.
It sounds great. Don't get me wrong.
Skip, hop, and a jump.
Tough one last night for Vanderbilt. Their season comes to a screeching halt in the national title game. They fall 9-0 to Mississippi State in a game where pretty much everything went wrong for Vanderbilt last night. Rocker comes in, and you could tell pretty early, Joe. He just didn't have kind of the same pop to him, did not have the same stuff that he normally has, and didn't get any help from his defense behind him. He made some mistakes along the way in the field as well. And look, the bottom line is, and this was the main thing I was worried about yesterday anyway, heading into this matchup, you only get one hit in a game, you're just not going to win. I mean, it's difficult to win when your offense dries up the way that it has. Obviously, 9 runs, that's tough. You put yourself behind the 8 ball there, but Vanderbilt never really even approached yesterday being threatening offensively, and that basically, I think, really boils down to what their story was in the College World Series. As a team, I mean, when your batting average is in the ones, it's not going to end well, and it did not.
Right. I mean,
it's kind of amazing they got to that point, given how poorly they hit in this tournament.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like they just really didn't play well in Omaha much. They had a great comeback against Arizona, incredible, comeback against Stanford when it looked like their season was over. They beat a half NC State team. But the offensive struggles were throughout, and the defensive struggles. I mean, again, last night at one point, just in the final series, they were sitting at 9 hits and 6 errors total as a team in the final series. And I would argue that 2 plays ruled hits should have been errors. So I would have scored it 9 hits for them.
I think you're being a little harsh on the Carter Young play, but yeah.
Am I?
The transfer play?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like even just his glove in general became like a problem.
That was weird. Yeah.
But regardless, I don't know if they go hand in hand. They probably do. You see teams go through slumps, right? And you had some guys that just individually, I think, just went in a slump at the wrong time. But the defense was really surprising. They've been a good defensive team this year, and it's like that snowballed on them.
By the way, a quick update from Greg. My best friend's wife's mother has won the Banana Pudding Festival in Centerville. It's an hour drive away. There you go.
Best friend's wife's mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I followed that. Yeah.
All right.
So an hour drive.
Well, hey, if she'd like to send the recipe, you probably don't want to share that recipe if you're winning contests with
probably
it. But, not. Any tips? Any tips on that? My grandma, her French toast, the big key. The best French toast in the world, the big key. You got to have stale bread.
Oh, okay. Hey,
I don't question the greatness.
No,
but
whatever.
You got to have
whatever works.
Bread that's a little bit past the date for it to be as great as you want it to be.
So there we go.
That may sound weird, but I promise you, if you had that French toast,
you wouldn't question it.
There's another. I put that on the dessert list above banana pudding. So there's 27 now.
That's breakfast. That's not dessert.
But it's very sugary.
Okay. All right. Well, there's your update.
I would have it. I would eat it as a dessert.
Your stale dessert bread.
Yeah.
Man,
breakfast dessert bread that's stale.
Do not mess with Phyllis Pratt's French toast. Now we will fight.
What do you think of Kamar Rocker last night? And look, he battled. I think that was clear. And yet, look, he has moments where he was pitching pretty well, but the complete picture last night, I think you could tell just not his normal stuff out there on the mound.
Well, it seemed like he really struggled with the breaking ball, landing it, and that's a big part of of what he does. Obviously, they were ready to jump on first pitch fastballs, first pitch of the game, line drive single. But again, he's out of there without damage if they don't have defensive issues. Now, I know Willie and I were going back and forth on Twitter. Willie said that was a Parker Noland issue on the what could have been a double play, which, by the way, would have given you a scoreless first inning and 7 total pitches.
I think the difference ended up being, 14 more pitches, 13
right,
more pitches?
He threw 21 and gave up a run, an unearned run, because of that play. I still think that the throw was errant, even if Nolan didn't play it exactly right. I mean, just from me looking at it, I was like, but still, yes, of course he's got to be on the first base side of the bag, but he threw it way to Nolan's left. But regardless, it was an error. And then I thought he really struggled, and then I thought he had a couple good innings. Look, for the most part, it was like defense and control, and they had a couple real big hits off him. Roddy Piper with that line going the other way, double into the corner. That's big time at bat. So it wasn't his best stuff, not the best way to go out. He takes a loss for the first time ever in this tournament in his career, in his last outing. Still ends up like 7-1 with like a 1.7 ERA or whatever and a no-hitter. Not bad.
Not bad.
One national championship, didn't get 2.
Well, we said this yesterday, and look, not the way that the Rocker wanted to go out for sure, but I mean, his legacy's pretty intact at this point. Wins a national title, one of the most clutch athletes that Vanderbilt has ever seen. And look, I think yesterday you just chalk it up to what it is. You're on 4 days rest. You gave it out there. You gave it your best shot, and you just didn't have the same stuff. Now, I understand that Bednar on the other side was on 3 days rest, and I thought he was going to pitch a no-hitter for a long time. I mean,
he did.
I mean, he did. But I thought he was going the complete game the whole time. But 6 innings of no-hit baseball for him. So I realize you've got that kind of comparison on the other side of the mound there, but that just kind of speaks more to me to Vanderbilt's lineup. I thought Vanderbilt, especially early in the game, they bailed Bednar out a few times. I thought he was all over the place with his strike zone, and he could not really dial it down and get locked in there, and he did a little bit later in the game. I thought especially the first couple of innings, he was all over the place with his control, and Vanderbilt helped him out way too often.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been bases loaded, 3 walks, nobody out to start the game. Enrique Bradfield, leadoff hitter, has a 2-0 count, and he goes outside the strike zone, swinging at some pitches, strikes out. Then he walks 2, and they have an opportunity, and they didn't take advantage of it. I mean, Bednar, you got to give him a ton of credit. But yeah, like if Kumar Rocker, like if you asked him, and of course he would never say this, but it's like, okay, which lineup would you rather pitch to? As they're going right now. Pretty big difference between those two lineups. I mean, Mississippi State earned a championship, ended up being a great team, was up and down some this year, but good lineup and just great defense. Such an underrated aspect of this. How many times did Bradfield, Vaz moves up to second? I think there were 3 or 4, balls in play where if you aren't perfect, they are getting on base. And then who knows what can happen from that. But they made the play. They made the play you have to make every time, and they made some extraordinary plays. Vanderbilt didn't even make the plays you have to make every time.
And the first
way too many times.
First national title in team sport in history for Mississippi State. And you could tell last night those fans were rowdy at Omaha. I mean, I have to think, and I'm not saying that it was the difference in the series, but I do have to think, I mean, that environment had to make some sort of difference in favor of Mississippi State. It was an electric atmosphere all 3 games, and Vanderbilt did a good job of really taking them out of it in the first game, and you scored 7 in the first inning. It's a good way to silence the crowd, but I thought in games 2 and 3 it was a factor in how those games went, and I think the crowd being in favor of Mississippi State that much, it was not the difference in the series, but it was a huge positive in terms of Mississippi State and the fans they had in attendance.
Yeah, I mean, even the first game, Vanderbilt puts a touchdown up in the first inning and, quiets them. But even in that game, they battled back pretty well and kind of got it to the point where it could have been interesting, and I felt like the crowd was a part of that. And then you don't want to give too much credit to the fans versus the players on the field, but I don't think there's any doubt it had an impact. I mean, Christian Little, for example, betrayed by his defense, as he was the time before. But then it just seemed like the crowd, his control, it's tough, especially for someone who's 17 or even someone who's 19 or 20. It makes a difference. I don't think there's any doubt that Mississippi State's showing was some factor here.
Christopher on Periscope says that leaves Virginia Tech and Kansas State as the only schools to not win a championship in any team sport.
Really?
That is correct. Can't confirm. Heard that
Power 5?
2 nights ago. Yep.
So the only 2 Power 5 universities that don't have any sort of national championship.
Correct.
Gosh. Throwing shade on my Hokies.
Yeah.
Come on, Hokies. They should have won it all when Michael Vick lined up against Florida State so many years ago. Didn't quite happen.
It did not.
Peter Warwick.
We'll continue the conversation on Vanderbilt when we come back and ask the question, what did this run by both Vanderbilt and Tennessee do for college baseball and the popularity of college baseball here in this market? We'll get to that coming up next. Also got some tickets to give away for Nashville SC as well. We'll do that on the other side. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Some beautiful music bringing us back here from break from Elijah Campbell.
Little Roy Orbison didn't hurt anybody.
Yes.
Nice.
Very nicely
Mixing
done.
it up nice today. Little tribe in there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No one's ever
Little-
accused me of not having range.
Little CL Smooth and Pete Rock,
Elijah's been very
I
generous
recognize
today
it.
with his musical selection. Now he's about to be generous with his ticket supply as well. We've got some tickets to give away for Nashville SC as they take on the Philadelphia Union at Nissan Stadium this Saturday. You can win a family 4-pack of tickets right now. Be caller 5 at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Caller 5 will win a family 4-pack of tickets to see Nashville SC take on the Philadelphia Union at Nissan Stadium coming up this Saturday. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, discussing the College World Series final last night. Mississippi State wins the national title against Vanderbilt. They win 9-0 in a dominant performance from Will Bednar and the Bulldogs last night. Joe, obviously a disappointing end to the season for Vanderbilt. Tennessee, a disappointing showing in Omaha as well. But the big picture in mind, two pretty awesome seasons for Vanderbilt and for Tennessee, and interest in college baseball in this area. I know in my lifetime, this was by far the most people were interested in terms of college baseball as a whole. My question to you is, how much staying power does that have? As you look at Vanderbilt, they're going to be back in Omaha. As long as Tim Corbin's there, they're going to be a factor. They've got the number 1 recruiting class coming in. They're going to be exactly what they've been for the past decade plus, and that is an absolute factory and a force in the world of college baseball. We'll see what sort of staying power Tony Vitello and Tennessee is going to have. But as you kind of evaluate what we've seen in this area, in Knoxville over the last couple of months, as Tennessee and Vanderbilt have gone on these runs, what do you think it's done for the popularity of college baseball? How much staying power do you think the interest that has been generated has with college baseball in this area?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans over years have very much embraced this program to the point where they do follow recruiting and they know who's coming in and who may be going out. And I mean, it's a tremendous fan base for baseball. And I understand that Mississippi State overwhelmed the place in Omaha, but I'll say it again. I mean, 2 years ago, I saw with my own 2 eyes, like at least 40% of that stadium filled with Vanderbilt fans. They got a good fan base. The interest will be high. But to me, with Tennessee, what that does is it's great for Tennessee. Tennessee baseball, Tennessee's looking for a winner. People have really gotten on board. If they can keep this up and they can build on this and recruit off this, you know, you follow your team if you're into a sport. You also follow the teams you don't like. So like Vanderbilt baseball, to me, all of a sudden has a huge group of people now who maybe before were like, who cares about that sport anyway? They can have their little whatever. And now it's like, oh, when do we play them this year?
Yeah.
Who from Farragut are we both going after? Did I say that well?
You did.
Who from Farragut Academy are we both going after? You know, can we win this recruiting battle? Hate those guys, and I pay attention to those guys. And to me, and maybe a Vanderbilt fan doesn't like to hear, like Tennessee's interest in baseball helps you, but I would say that it does.
I think so. Look, how much fun was that Vanderbilt-Tennessee series this year in the regular season? And then you factor in the runs they both went on since then. Look, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point here where, you know, we're sitting here in February and we're just breaking down the college baseball upcoming season for an hour and a half on the show. Like, it's probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
There's a lot going on at that time. And look, college baseball I still think is a pretty distant third behind basketball and football in the major college sports realm.
Well, I'd go fourth if you split basketball.
If you split basketball, sure, fourth. So I think you've got to factor that in. But I do think as you look at college baseball in this area with Tony Vitello, I think he connects to this Tennessee fan base in a way that we probably haven't seen there since probably Bruce Pearl has come through that university. I think that's big. I think Tennessee fans love Tony Vitello. That's going to go a long way towards generating continual interest in that program, and it would be great for like the next 10 years to just have an awesome baseball rivalry between Tennessee and Vanderbilt. It'd be awesome.
It'd be great.
Love it.
It'd be a blast. I mean, look, I'm always trying to get more college hoops talk on this show, but of course it's not the ideal time of year. This time of year, there's room. I mean, we've talked college baseball way more on this show than I would have guessed. Like if you asked me in beginning of April or whatever, and I feel like people are engaged in it and there's a lot of interest, and it is. The question is Tennessee. We know what Vanderbilt's going to be. As long as Tim Corbin has that job and he's just going to keep doing the job the way he's done it, they're going to be really good. Vanderbilt fans are going to be into it. But you introduce a rivalry like that, and if you can have more weekend series with two teams ranked in the top 10, teams that can get to Omaha, that do get to Omaha, I think it'll build and build.
What do you think it was like last night in Starkville?
Probably like a bunch of houses getting broken into because they were all partying in Omaha. Yeah. You know?
Oh, man.
There's no police scanner because they were in Omaha too. It was just like a ghost. I don't know. I haven't seen any like Starkville video. So
I always go back to, for some reason, I don't even remember why I did it, but for some reason after Kentucky won the national title in 2012 in basketball, I listened to the Lexington police scanner. And it was just, it was story after story after story of just ridiculous things happening in Lexington.
It's a little weird you did that, but I respect it.
Oh, it was amazing. I listened to it till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's kind of
like,
fun.
This is awesome. This is great. I didn't do that last night because, we wake up very early to do this show. But I would have enjoyed maybe tuning in to a little Starkville, maybe even Omaha police scanner. See what could have happened.
I will say that like the numbers and the wildness of Lexington after a basketball championship, probably hard to beat from any college town for any championship, right? So that was if you're going to choose
Things
a police
burning in
scanner,
the streets.
you're going to choose a police scanner moment in a college town, that's probably
fireworks going off in dumpsters. There is a whole lot of stuff going on.
Like it wouldn't even be the case in Tuscaloosa anymore because they're just
used to it.
Yeah. But like actually they don't. It's not like they win the Natty all the time at Kentucky. That's a great choice. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if maybe the party continues. What the parade might be like. Vanderbilt, by the way, is having a welcome back event today.
Yep.
Just got an email on that. So if anybody wants to go out there, I'm looking right now. It looks like it's at noon. I'm going to get the information for you because I just started bringing it up. I hate when I bring something up and then I don't have the goods to deliver to you. Here we go. I keep talking to myself. Today, noon, Hawkins Field, open to the public. So if you want to go say goodbye to Kamar Rocker, Jack Leiter, others who will not be back, you can go out there.
There you go.
Yeah. Tough way to go out.
It is.
It's amazing. All this disappointment and bad defense and their lineup, it's cold, and they played for the national championship in the final game of the possible season.
I think I feel the worst for Jack Leiter. Like he deserved a national title. And I think back to the 2020 team. Like to me, this is upsetting if you're a Vanderbilt fan. But I still think what maybe pains you more is, man, if we'd just had a season in 2020 with that lineup and that pitching staff, what could have been?
Yep.
I like their chances that year.
I think they were the clear best team last year, assuming Leiter was as good as he looked early and was basically what he was this year. Yeah. A ridiculous team. But they'll have more good teams.
They will. We'll continue to monitor the NIL stuff coming out today. There's been some good ones so far. I think my favorite so far is the Milo Sweet Tea.
What was is there really a Marshall Henderson thing, or is that just no? Okay.
No, there's not a Marshall Henderson thing.
But as someone has pointed out,
somebody said excited for the first college athlete to endorse strip clubs.
I'm here for it.
Could happen.
Making those threes rain.
That's right. What a time. Quickly, who wins tonight between Bucks and Hawks? Game 5. Elijah, who you got?
Ooh, I want to play on the assumption that there are no Trae Young, Giannis, or Clint Capella. I'll go Bucks.
All three out. And you're going Milwaukee tonight to take a 3-2 series lead. Joe Rexrode, who wins between the Bucks and the Hawks tonight?
Well, I think if Capella's out, it's easy. But I'll say even if he plays, I'd go Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to respond. I think they're just better. Good for the Hawks the way they responded, but is Lou Williams going to get you 50 tonight? That's about what you'd need to win that game to me.
Give me the Hawks. Kevin Herter is going to shoot the lights out tonight.
Kayvon, let's go.
Give me the Hawks. Hawks come back home with a chance to punch their ticket to the finals. 3-2.
You've been right. We've been picking games. You picked Vanderbilt to lose the last 2 games. I picked them to win the last 2 games. You've been kind of on a roll. So
I'm going to use it all up before weekend winners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then weekend winners comes and yep.
That's right.
In comes the varsity.
Thank you. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Darren Donica Chase is coming up next. You're listening to ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Joe!